Chapter 593. Looking at the two inheritance steels, Ziyue did not hesitate at all. With a thought, countless cultivation methods related to the 5 transformation golden elixir technique and the heaven and earth in the sleeve quickly rushed into his mind and were memorized by him. Then, in just 100 breaths, he quickly understood and absorbed them, and understood the cultivation method. Compared to the last time when I comprehended the great magnetic slash, which took me more than half an hour, this time I was much happier. As expected, the increase in strength has also allowed my comprehension ability and the speed of thinking to increase by countless times. Compared to the previous time when he comprehended the inheritance, he felt a burst of emotion in his heart. Of the 2 inheritances, the 5 transformation golden elixir technique is indeed not very high in terms of rank. It contains only 895 acupoints. Therefore, if an ordinary cultivator practices it, he can at most form the solid elixir of the 3 middle grades, the solid elixir of the 5th grade. But in the 5 transformation golden elixir technique, the mystery of the 5 refinements and purification of the golden elixir is no small matter, and it is also unique. If I use this as a foundation, in addition to the demon clan's 9 transformations of the snake and dragon, according to my situation and foundation, it is not impossible to create a golden elixir level cultivation method that belongs to me. Ziyue's eyes narrowed, and he silently thought about the feasibility of it. The golden elixir level cultivation methods were more effective on the golden elixir. The number of acupoints it contained only meant that the upper limit was not high, but it did not mean that this cultivation method was not feasible. In fact, many cultivation truths were hidden in countless low-level cultivation methods. After all, no matter how talented one was, no matter how mysterious the cultivation method created, the strength of an individual was always limited. As for the countless ordinary cultivators, their wisdom was limitless. Their strange ideas and cultivation insights, as long as they could be integrated, would be an incomparably spacious and supreme path. Therefore, he valued the 5 transformation golden elixir technique very much and exchanged for it. This was because he instinctively judged that this cultivation method contained some kind of cultivation principle that he needed. At this moment it was indeed so. There was a burst of joy in his heart. After that, he quickly determined that it wasn't difficult for him to create a golden core realm cultivation technique that was suitable for him and belonged solely to him by combining his extremely deep resources and the numerous golden core realm cultivation techniques as references. After all, the thousands of divine realm cultivation methods that he had obtained before were not just for show. Countless theories could also be applied to the golden elixir level cultivation method. Now, what I lack is the opportunity that is as good as the heart and as smooth as flowing water. That is, as long as I have 1 or 2 golden elixir level cultivation methods, it is estimated that I can create a golden elixir level cultivation method, preferably a golden elixir level cultivation method of the golden elixir level cultivation method. And I can quickly create my own golden elixir level cultivation method. Golden elixir power of the purple elixir. Is not rush. By Ziyue muttered to himself before his thoughts landed on the heaven and earth sleeve. The world in the sleeve is a great magic power that binds and locks things. This great magic power is indeed extraordinary. Not only is it similar to the shadow realm, but it is also a peerless great magic power that contains more than 1,200 acupoints. If it is cultivated to the perfect realm, it is as if it can be made into a space of its own, which is extremely firm. Its effect of trapping enemies is far above the 5 Emperor's heaven-sealing sword that I have mastered. Moreover, with the help of a few 4th-grade advanced craftsmen or 5th-grade advanced craftsmen, and with the help of some strange treasures that contain the mysteries of space, they can even refine a new grotto heaven magic treasure. Ziyue's eyes flashed. The preciousness of this Grotto Heaven magic treasure could be seen from the fact that he was chased by several demon monarchs when he was fighting for the true demon Grotto Heaven. For others, it is very difficult to cultivate the world in the sleeve to the perfect realm. Even many golden elixir realm cultivators can't achieve it in their lifetime. Not to mention being matched with a 4th grade weapon refiner or above to refine a Grotto Heaven magic treasure. But for me, whether it is cultivating the world in the sleeve to the perfect realm or becoming a 4th grade weapon refiner or above, it is not difficult. In other words, I can make Grotto Heaven magic treasures in batches? Xiu's heart was suddenly shocked, and then he revealed an incomparable joy. In fact, Grotto Heaven magic treasures were not as simple as he thought. Not only was it difficult to refine, but it was also difficult to find treasures that contained space attribute. Moreover, even if the Grotto Heaven magic treasure was really formed and had an incomparably spacious space inside, the space was actually just a dead place. At most, it could only be used as a storage magic treasure. It needed cultivators to cultivate it, fill it, move mountains and seas, and even transplant spirit veins. In this way, the Grotto Heaven magic treasure could adapt to the survival of all kinds of creatures, allowing living creatures to grow and spiritual flowers and plants to survive. A high-grade Grotto Heaven magic treasure could even directly be a small world. For example, the true demon Grotto Heaven in his body was 100 miles wide. Although it was not suitable for cultivators to live in, there were mountains and rivers in it, and there was a middle-grade golden elixir realm stone seal buried deep in the center, stabilizing the mountains and rivers in it, so that it could be like the outside world, where the chi would rise and the water would flow down. There was also a 3rd-grade spirit vein that spanned across the entire space, constantly producing spiritual chi. Then, the spiritual chi was continuously converted into yin chi and demonic chi by the formation inside. Thinking of the true demon Grotto Heaven, Xiu's heart couldn't help but move. His body then disappeared. When he reappeared, he was in an environment that was misty and filled with strands of dense, baleful yin chi. It was the true demon Grotto Heaven, and at this time, in the Inheritance Palace, a fist-sized black bead appeared at this time. In a flash, it gradually disappeared, and no trace was left. Grotto Heaven magic treasures had their own concealment effect. Although it was difficult to block the detection of experts above the golden elixir realm, it was difficult for ordinary divine realm cultivators to see through it. This true demon Grotto Heaven has been operated by the demonic sect for many years, and its value is indeed very high. But this yin chi is innately suitable for demonic cultivators to cultivate, but it is not suitable for me to use. So, I have to change many of the arrangements inside. Xiu thought in his heart, and casually pointed at a huge mountain in front of him. Rumble! Suddenly, the void shook, and the high-grade 4 formation on top of the high-grade 3 spirit vein in the Grotto Heaven, the spirit-gathering killing formation, stopped operating. Immediately after, the baleful yin chi that was continuously converted from spiritual energy in the void lost its source of energy and slowly dissipated. Finally, there was a faint trace of spiritual chi of heaven and earth emerging from the ground. Although more than 30% of the yin chi in this Grotto Heaven was used in the process of condensing the golden elixir and refining the amethyst golden elixir, there is still a lot of yin chi in this Grotto Heaven. But there is still a lot of yin chi here, and it is extremely dense. Allowing them to scatter everywhere was not necessarily a good thing. And extracting the baleful yin chi from within seems to be a bit of a waste. Xiu frowned slightly. With a sweep of his consciousness, the entire environment of the Grotto Heaven was clear in his mind. Very quickly, his eyes lit up. Inside the Grotto Heaven magic treasure, the true devil sect had moved a huge mountain from somewhere. The entire mountain was a black iron stone mine. This black iron stone was a 2nd-grade spirit material and was extremely hard. It was an excellent material for low-level cultivators to refine magic treasure flying sword. However, in the middle of this black iron ore vein, perhaps because of the early excavation, the entire center was in a hollowed-out state. There were also countless ore vein passageways in all directions. These ore vein passageways, together with the hollowed-out area in the middle, unknowingly formed a unique wind cave with 2 huge air vents and 7 or 8 relatively smaller air vents. Due to the special terrain and environment of the wind cave, it actually had a type of devouring and absorbing power. Over the years, the baleful yin-chi inside had far surpassed that of other places. Even the black iron stone mine itself, because it was tainted with dense baleful yin-chi, had advanced to become a type of third-grade black iron crystal. Isn't this wind cave a natural place to gather baleful yin-chi? By filling it with all the baleful yin-chi, not only would it be able to create a large area of top-notch baleful chi, it would also allow the other places in the grotto heaven to no longer be as deadly as before. It can also help the black iron stone mine to completely transform into a black iron crystal mine. It can be said to be killing multiple birds with one stone. Ziyu muttered to himself, and without hesitation, he quickly controlled all the baleful yin-chi that was floating in the air and swept it towards the 2 wind caves. Rumble! The wind and clouds changed, and the sky changed color. The space within the entire grotto heaven was immediately stirred up by countless turbulent flows, causing waves to appear in the air. Sizzle! Endless baleful yin-chi quickly swept towards the 2 huge wind caves, and in the blink of an eye, the density of the baleful yin-chi inside had increased to an unimaginable level. But at the same time, even more baleful yin-chi was still rushing in endlessly. 1 drop, 2 drops, 3 drops, instantly, the terrifyingly dense baleful yin-chi began to condense into liquid and drip onto the ground. Then, after continuous compression, it quickly solidified into droplets and lumps of baleful yin stones. Even more baleful yin-chi was tainted, and the black iron stone mine evolved rapidly, completely transforming from a second-grade spirit mine to a third-grade spirit mine. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, after 3 hours the entire world was clear. All the baleful yin-chi was controlled by Ziyu and rushed into the wind cave. It wasn't that Bai Ziyu was really skilled in such a way. But this grotto heaven magic treasure had now been completely refined and controlled by him. In this way, he could naturally control everything in the grotto heaven, including the formation, the mountains and rivers, the spirit veins, and the baleful yin-chi and spirit chi that were floating in the air. Chapter 594. Of course, changing the heavenly abode and changing the heavens and earth also required Jindan essence energy. However, Ziyue's amethyst golden core was extremely condensed and his Jindan essence energy was also very dense. Although the consumption of activating the heavenly abode was huge, it was not unbearable. Following which, Ziyu had a thought. The evil spirit gathering formation was taken out by Ziyu from the spirit vein. With a light wave, it turned into streaks of light and landed on the black iron crystal mine. Although there would still be an endless amount of evil yin-chi produced, because it was not rooted on the spirit vein, the conversion effect was naturally not as strong. As for Bai Ziyu, he now had a place where he could continuously extract baleful yin-chi. Whether this evil yin-chi was sold to others or used to refine magic treasures, the effect was extremely good. Then, he flipped his hand again and a long jade box appeared in his hand. When he opened the jade box, a spirit tree sapling appeared in front of him. Although the spirit chi was weak, it was full of vitality. Treasured cap spirit gathering tree. Ziyu looked at the spirit tree sapling and squinted his eyes. This spirit tree was planted from the spiritual material seeds that he obtained from the storage bag left behind by the celestial martial sect leader. As he planned to leave the ancient desolate region, he dug out this spirit tree and sealed it. Now it was finally taken out by him again. The treasured cap spirit gathering tree has the ability to gather spirit chi from the heavens and earth and slowly raise the grade of the spirit vein. Although its rank is low right now, growing on top of a high rank 3 spirit vein might not be of much use in the early stages. However, once it reaches rank 3 or even rank 4, it might be possible for it to raise the rank of this spirit vein. As Ziyue spoke, he waved his hand and directly planted the treasured cap spirit gathering tree in the center of the spirit vein. Under the cover of the rich spirit chi from the heavens and earth, the spirit tree sapling, which was still a little withered, immediately stretched out and started to slowly gather spirit chi from the heavens and earth. Vaguely, the density of the spiritual chi of heaven and earth within a few meters of it was half a level higher than the surrounding area. Then, Ziyue casually planted some of the spirit plant seeds or spirit materials that were still alive in various places on the spirit vein. It finally caused a trace of life to appear in the cave, which was originally a desolate desert and lifeless cave. In the future, I just need to scatter some spiritual material seeds, move 1 or 2 green mountain ranges, and bring in some exotic flowers and beasts. That will be enough. Thinking of this, Ziyue's expression suddenly changed. Then, he stretched out his hand and clapped. Roar! Awoo! In the blink of an eye, 2 figures, one big and one small, one white and one black, rushed out. They were none other than the White Tiger Great Demon, Tiger Dolly, and Uncle Black Puppy, who had always been by Ziyue's side. The White Tiger Great Demon did not make much progress and was still in the early stage of the God Realm. However, this did not mean that his strength did not increase. In fact, in terms of combat strength, he was now several times stronger than before. The reason why his realm did not increase was that he was now cultivating a demon clan cultivation method that Ziyue had specially tailored for him. With Ziyue's current foundation and means, it was naturally very easy to create a cultivation method that was suitable for him. In fact, in addition to the White Tiger Great Demon, the Demon Clan cultivation method that the Black Puppy was cultivating was also tailored for him. However, because the Black Puppy's strength was weak and his realm was low, his improvement was very obvious. Now, not only did his body size increase, but his realm also improved greatly. In terms of strength, he was already in the middle stage of the spirit detecting realm, which was comparable to a cultivator in the middle stage of the aperture enlightening realm. As soon as the 2 demonic beasts rushed out of the spirit beast pouch, they roared excitedly. Then, they quickly noticed the difference in the surrounding environment. Master, the White Tiger Great Demon said respectfully in a muffled voice. The Black Puppy also lowered his head slightly, revealing a rare look of reverence. The gap between the current Ziyue and them was getting bigger. Even if his aura was not obvious, the huge difference in the level of life and the strong self-confidence that came from within made them unable to show any disrespect. This is where you will live in the future. It is still a little desolate now, but it will become more lively in the future. Ziyue waved his hand and ignored them after he finished speaking. In a flash, he arrived at the spirit vein again. After thinking for a while, he waved his hand and took out the main veins that he had cut off from the grade 5 spirit vein one by one. Then, in batches, they were all buried in the superior grade 3 spirit vein. In particular, the 2 main veins that were closest to the core of the grade 5 spirit vein were directly buried in the core of the spirit vein by Ziyue. The reason why this grotto heaven magic treasure was revered by countless people and was regarded as a precious treasure. It was not just because it was spacious. When using such a treasure against an enemy, it was also extremely advantageous. Firstly, the mysterious teleportation power of the true Devil Sex sect leader, Demon Lord Jin Shao, was able to do it by relying on the unique spatial characteristics of the grotto heaven magic treasure. Secondly, it was the use of the spirit vein inside the grotto heaven magic treasure. The spirit vein contained a terrifying amount of spirit energy. If this spirit energy was in the outside world, cultivators could only rely on their own strength to extract and use it, and the utilization rate was extremely low. However, in the grotto heaven magic treasure, Immortal spell cultivators could use the control of the Grotto Heaven magic treasure to directly extract the spirit energy from the spirit vein to replenish themselves. Not only was it extremely convenient for cultivation, but it could also constantly repair and restore one's strength during battle. If the strength of the enemy was not too different, the advantage would be great. Therefore, the higher the grade of the spirit vein in the Grotto Heaven magic treasure, the better. In Ziyue's opinion, the main spirit vein of the spirit stones would naturally be filled with the spirit vein in the Grotto Heaven magic treasure rather than in the storage bag. It would be of greater help to him. Boom, boom, boom. Instantly, the mountains and rivers shook. The entire spirit vein grew rapidly as the huge amount of spirit stones filled it up. The mountains and rivers rose abruptly, and the earth grew. In the void, the wind and clouds changed. Vaguely, there was an auspicious aura gathering. The spirit vein is leveling up? Ziyue was slightly taken aback. He did not expect that the spirit vein would start leveling up just by casually burying the spirit stones. One had to know that this spirit vein had already weakened a little due to the continuous extraction of spirit energy by Demon Lord Zhenhua to deal with the many strong enemies. It could fall from the advanced grade 3 spirit vein to the intermediate grade 3 spirit vein at any time. However, this is also normal. These huge spirit stone pillars were all cut from the main spirit vein of a grade 5 spirit vein. Just the outer region is already filled with the intermediate grade spirit stones. The inner region is filled with the upper grade spirit stones. Not to mention, the central region is filled with the pure supreme grade spirit stones. How terrifying is the spirit energy contained in it! It is not difficult to create a grade 4 spirit vein with just these, not to mention leveling up an advanced grade 3 spirit vein. Bai Ziyue pondered for a moment and quickly came to a realization. He then looked at the auspicious aura gathering in the void with interest. Compared to the Qingshu sect spirit vein leveling up, the momentum was naturally much smaller. The auspicious aura that gathered was also much thinner. However, such a phenomenon of the heavens and the earth was still extremely rare. Especially when it appeared within a treasure, it caused Bai Ziyue to sense it even more deeply, and he gained a trace of indescribable comprehension towards the operation of the grand Tao of the heavens and the earth. Roar! Awo! Such a phenomenon was extremely beneficial to countless living beings. White Tiger Great Demon and Black Puppy, who had just adapted to their new territory, were excited when they saw such a phenomenon. They quickly rushed to the peak of the spirit vein and knelt down respectfully. Ziyue watched with interest. He had no intention of participating in the plundering. This level of auspicious aura did not have much effect on him. Instead of plundering, it was better to let it fall. Perhaps it could help the various spiritual materials he had just planted on the spirit vein to grow faster. Sizzle, the auspicious aura fell. Accompanied by the excited roars of White Tiger Great Demon and Black Puppy, the auspicious aura drifted and fell around the spirit vein. One could see with the naked eye that on the originally bare and dark land above the spirit vein, flowers, trees, and tender shoots immediately sprouted from the ground and began to grow. Even though most of them were just ordinary flowers and weeds, the auspicious aura naturally contained great fortune. Soon, some flowers and plants were transformed and became spiritual materials. The spiritual materials that Ziyue had planted all over the place also stretched out, took root, sprouted, and grew rapidly. Especially the jeweled spirit gathering tree at the center of the spirit vein. It grew from 1 meter tall to more than 10 meters and was as thick as a person's waist. Its grade also soared rapidly from the first grade to the middle grade of the second grade, the high grade of the second grade, and then the early grade of the third grade. Its spirit-gathering effect suddenly increased by more than 1,000 times, and the range of its radiation increased from a few meters to a few thousand meters. Roar! With an excited roar, White Tiger Great Demon's aura soared and was full of coercion. He had made a breakthrough. With the help of the auspicious aura, he directly broke through from the early stage of the divine realm to the middle stage of the divine realm. A whoa! Then, Black Puppy also roared repeatedly, and its voice was full of excitement. It also made a breakthrough, and its progress was much greater than that of White Tiger Great Demon. It directly jumped from the middle stage of the spirit-detecting realm to the late stage of the spirit-detecting realm and reached the peak of the spirit-detecting realm, which was comparable to a practitioner at the peak of the aperture enlightening realm. A strong aura spread out from its body, and even its size suddenly increased. At this moment, its size was not much smaller than that of White Tiger Great Demon. An arrogant and inflated mentality immediately arose in its heart. At the instant the auspicious aura dissipated, it cocked its head and slanted its eyes at White Tiger. Amidst its disdain, there was a look of eagerness to give it a try. Chapter 595. The Black Puppy swayed its body and walked to the front of the White Tiger Great Demon with its head held high. It tilted its head and looked at the White Tiger Great Demon, its eyes full of mockery and provocation. Stupid, stupid dog! The White Tiger Great Demon's face twitched and its paw struck out like lightning, hitting the Black Puppy's mouth directly. A howl was heard. The Black Puppy continued to roll down the mountain before finally landing in a pool of water. The pool was naturally een in nature. Not only was there a faint evil een chi, but there were also some een spirits hiding in it. Soon, they began to pull at the Black Puppy. The Black Puppy let out a scream. In a panic, it unleashed all its strength and fought fiercely with the een spirits. Ziyue glanced at it and knew that the strongest een spirits were only in the middle of the aperture opening realm. They posed no threat to the Black Puppy, so he ignored them. After looking around again, a satisfied look appeared on his face as he muttered, "Now, there's finally some life in the entire grotto heaven. Especially since this spirit vein has reached the early 4th grade. Given the amount of spirit chi it can handle every day, if I'm in a battle, it can allow my pure purple elixir core energy to quickly recover 3 or 4 times over. Of course, after 3 or 4 times, I can continue to use the spiritual vein to recover my elixir essence. But after 5 times, the foundation of the spiritual vein will be damaged. After 10 times, the spiritual vein's grade will regress and fall back to the upper 3rd grade. If it is not necessary, there is no need to use it to the extreme. In this way, it is not appropriate to call this grotto heaven the true demon grotto heaven. Let's change it to the Kunlun grotto heaven, the Kunlun grotto heaven that belongs to me, the Kunlun Taoist." Ziyue muttered to himself. Soon, he renamed the grotto heaven and tapped on the huge spiritual vein. In the blink of an eye, a huge rock was formed. Then, the words Kunlun Mountain Range were engraved on the stone, clear and dazzling. Qingshu Sect, Inheritance Hall. Ziyue's figure flashed and reappeared. Ziyue glanced indifferently at the remaining legacy stone tablets before his gaze landed on the legacy statue in the distance. The last time he had entered the Inheritance Hall, Ziyue had already used the Enlightenment time to obtain the inheritance within the statue. Now, the statue no longer held any secrets in his eyes. The 3 legacies in the statue are the 5 Emperors' Reincarnation Technique, the 5 Emperors' Heaven Sealing Sword, and the 5 Emperors' Divine Royal Robe. 1 Cultivation Technique, and 2 Great Divine Abilities. Among them, the 5 Emperors' Reincarnation Technique was a technique that allowed one to reach the middle stage of the primordial spirit realm. As for the 5 Emperors' Sky Sealing Sword and 5 Emperors' Divine Royal Robe, although they were not peerless great mystiques, they were still extremely powerful great mystiques. These inheritances originally belonged to the Qingshu sect. This time, I am about to leave and will not be able to return in a short period of time. I might as well leave them behind as a form of repayment to the Qingshu sect. Ziyue pondered for a moment. After all, he remembered that he had gained a lot in the Qingshu sect. Since it was convenient, he did not mind leaving behind some good things. Something delayed me today. I will update the next chapter first. The next chapter was before 12 o'clock. Therefore, with a flip of his hand, he took out a Tao source stone. With a sweep of his divine sense, he immediately began to record. Of course, Zeus still held back. He did not record the entire 5 Emperors reincarnation technique. He only recorded this technique to the peak of the Golden Elixir realm. He believed that if someone really cultivated this technique, it would not be difficult for them to comprehend the rest of the technique through the Inheritance Hall. As for the 5 Emperors' sky-sealing sword and 5 Emperors' divine royal robe, after all, his identity as spiritual master Beiming had been exposed. He naturally would not risk exposing his identity by leaving them here. After all, once someone cultivated the 5 Emperors' reincarnation technique to the Golden Elixir realm, they would eventually be able to obtain these legacies from the Inheritance statue. Everything depended on who had the opportunity to do so. However, it would probably be at least 100 years later. At that time, even if someone guessed that he and spiritual master Beiming were the same person, it would be meaningless. After all, 100 years was a long time for him. With his growth speed, he would have broken through to the primordial spirit realm long ago. There was no need for him to care about these things. With a throw, Zeus placed the Inheritance stone tablet that recorded the 5 Emperors' reincarnation technique behind the 10 Great Inheritance stone tablet. Then, he pointed out the restrictions one by one. It would take at least 3 to 5 days for a divine realm cultivator to break them. An ordinary early golden elixir realm cultivator would need at least half a day to break them. Only then was he really relieved. He turned around and walked out of the Inheritance Hall. Now that everything was done, it was impossible for him to gain much in the Inheritance Hall. Naturally, he did not want to stay here any longer. In the next few days, Zeus simply tidied up. Then, he gave a few instructions to several disciples. He handed over the matter to Ma Zhen and the others. Then, he went straight to the Internal Affairs Hall. When Zeus came out of the Internal Affairs Hall, he had used up all the contribution points he had accumulated in the Fiery Spirit Peak during this period of time. What followed were countless spiritual materials and spiritual medicine seeds, Sumeru stones that could be used to practice the great magic skill, Sleeve Cosmos. There were also many abandoned magic treasures that could be used to upgrade his natal flying sword. Among them, Sumeru stones were one of the necessary treasures to refine a storage bag. Therefore, their value was relatively high. Zeus spent enough contribution points and more than 100,000 upper-grade spiritual stones to barely gather 10,000 kilograms of Sumeru stones, which should be enough for him to practice the beginner's level. From this, it could be seen that the practice of the Sleeve Cosmos was difficult. Just the beginner's level required more than 100,000 upper-grade spiritual stones. How difficult would it be to practice it to the completion? It was no wonder that very few practitioners in the Qingshu sect would choose to practice this great magic skill. There was no other reason than that the price was too high. After leaving this time, I don't know when I will come here again. Zeus looked back in the direction of the Qingshu sect. In his eyes, a trace of complex emotions flashed. Here, he had gained a lot. From the early stage of the God realm, he had leaped to the early stage of the Gold Core realm. The Gold Core he condensed was the rare Amethyst Golden Core. Moreover, it was a complete and pure Amethyst Golden Core, which made him somewhat excited at this time. Now that he had left, it was inevitable that his thoughts would be somewhat complicated. But soon, his face regained its calmness. The great Tao was ruthless. On the road of immortality, practitioners were doomed to be lonely. He had long been used to loneliness. Who didn't walk alone on the road of the great Tao? Chapter 596. The cloud-piercing mountain range is too small. The highest grade of spiritual vein is only the middle grade of the 5th grade. The limit of an immortal spell cultivator is the peak of the golden elixir realm. It is not suitable for me, who has reached the early stage of the golden elixir realm. There are too few resources and my potential for growth is very low. Ziyue thought silently and looked in the direction of the rising sun. That was the direction of the Gusha mountain range, the center of the firmament territory, where the celestial spirit sect was located, and the Indigo mountain range. Not only were such places rich in resources and treasures, but there were also countless golden core realm and primordial spirit realm experts. That was the place where a cultivator who was determined to reach the peak should go. No matter how a carp in shallow water jumped, it was still a small fish. Only in the sea, where resources were abundant and dangers were numerous, could it grow, wash off its scales, grow its dragon horns, break its shackles, and leap out to become a real dragon. If Ziyue wanted to grow and become stronger, he had to go through hardships and reach a wider and more resourceful place. However, if he was trapped in one place, he would eventually wither and die. But before that, I have some small problems that I should solve. Then, Ziyue narrowed his eyes and revealed a strange look. Soon after, he flipped his hand and a jade box appeared in his palm. When he opened the jade box, a unique soul aura appeared in front of him. It was the soul mark that the Demon King had left on him. This was because when he broke through, he had stripped off the auspicious aura. He did not forget how embarrassed he was when he was chased by the Demon King. Previously, he was not strong enough and knew that he was no match for the two Demon Kings. That was why he kept cultivating the Shadow Realm, hoping to use the Shadow Realm's ability to hide the soul mark and avoid being tracked. But now, his strength had increased greatly. Not only had he broken through to the early stage of the Golden Elixir Realm, but he had also reached the first grade of the Golden Elixir Realm. His strength was not what it used to be. Naturally, he would want to take revenge. He usually did not hold grudges because most of the time, he would take revenge on the spot. However, when he was not strong enough, he would also judge the situation and size up the situation. At this time, the grudge would be remembered for a long time. Generally speaking, the longer he remembered the grudge, the more ruthless his revenge would be. Ziyue narrowed his eyes and cast a lesser evasion spell. Because of his previous experience, Ziyue had some special insights into the use of this small evasion technique. After using it a few times, when he felt a faint threat coming from the southeast, a smile immediately appeared on his face. With a thought, he unleashed his great ability, lightning escape light without any hesitation. In an instant, Ziyue's figure really was like a stream of light. In a flash, he disappeared into the horizon. This speed is so fast. It's comparable to when I went all out. Furthermore, this is only under the situation where I'm only using the thunder escape light. If I add the enhancement of the god's Dharma body, what will happen? Ziyue felt the surrounding environment quickly passing by in front of his eyes. The refreshing feeling under the extreme speed really made him excited. Then, a kind of uncontrollable curiosity emerged in his heart. He was curious about how fast his extreme speed would reach. Without hesitation, his aura rose and he immediately unleashed the god's Dharma body. Boom! The void exploded. Ziyue, who was already extremely fast, increased his speed again, reaching a limit that he could not imagine before. Before this, I met a total of 3 experts at the peak of the Gold Elixir Realm. The first one was Wang Weizhen, the supreme elder of the Qingshu sect. The second one was the demon monarch who left a soul mark on me. As for the third one, he was the one I encountered after I got rid of my pursuers. His name was True Monarch Wu, but he was actually Devil Monarch Wu. The strength of the 3 people represented the 3 levels of the peak of the Gold Elixir Realm. If Wang Weizhen was only equivalent to the 3rd level of the peak of the Gold Elixir Realm because of his declining qi and blood, then the demon monarch who left a soul mark on me was equivalent to the 2nd level of the peak of the Gold Elixir Realm. In this way, the demon monarch Wu was equivalent to the 1st level of the peak of the Gold Elixir Realm. Previously, when I went all out, my speed surpassed the Demon Monarch Wu Demon Monarch's soul mark in a short period of time. It's roughly equivalent to me having the speed of the first level of the peak of the Gold Elixir realm. Now that I'm in the early stage of the Gold Elixir realm, using the Thunder Escape Light, my speed is already comparable to the first level of the peak of the Gold Elixir realm. In this way, with the addition of the God's Dharma body, my speed has surpassed this level and reached the level of an emperor? As Bai Ziyue flew at an extremely fast speed, his thoughts flashed rapidly. Although he did not know how shocking the speed of an emperor was. However, he believed that with his current speed, he wouldn't lose out to any emperor. And most importantly, my current speed is not my limit. Ziyue's eyes suddenly flashed with a trace of flowing light. Then, he took the opportunity to use his own Dao technique, the heaven patching technique. In an instant, his speed, which was already astonishingly fast, increased by another level. It was as if he had flashed, and in a flash, he had already disappeared into the sky. When I use the heaven patching technique, my speed is really too fast. It's definitely faster than an emperor. Is it the half-step essence soul realm, or has it really reached the essence soul realm? Ziyue was a little excited. Even though he was very clear that his strength would definitely soar when he broke through to the Gold Elixir realm with the help of the Purple Pole Golden Elixir. Regardless of whether it was his speed, offensive power, or defensive power, they would all be raised to the extreme. But after all, he had not tested it, and he could not use it in the Qingshu sect. Now that the sky was wide and the sea was wide, he finally had a relatively clear understanding of the changes in his strength under the wanton use of the technique. But, under such circumstances, how long can I stay in this state? Therefore, Ziyue used the heaven patching technique to erupt his strength with all his strength. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths, after a full 60 breaths, he felt a sense of exhaustion from the Purple Pole Golden Elixir in his body. His heart stirred, and he took the opportunity to disperse the heaven patching technique. At the same time, he hurriedly controlled the Kunlun Grotto Heaven, using his control over the Grotto Heaven to directly extract the spirit chi in the Grotto Heaven to recover. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. The terrifying and pure spirit chi of heaven and earth was being wantonly devoured by his Purple Pole Golden Elixir. The great Tao Heart Lamp was refining, and it was quickly converted into pure Purple Pole Golden Elixir essence, replenishing his consumption. With my current strength, not only has the power increased greatly, but the duration of my outburst has also increased greatly, reaching 60 breaths. Moreover, with the recovery of the Kunlun Grotto Heaven, I only need 10 breaths to recover again, and I can erupt for another 60 breaths. Considering that the Kunlun Grotto Heaven can extract spirit chi to recover 4 times at a time, it is equivalent to 300 breaths of time. When I erupt with all my strength, 300 breaths of time is completely enough to support me in a high-intensity battle. Ziyue calculated in his heart and was completely relieved. He was more confident than ever before. Although the 3 demon monarchs were strong, with his current strength, he should be able to deal with them. He hurriedly wanted to update the website before 12 o'clock, but the website was lagging. Chapter 597. In the void, a warship was flying across the sky. 3 cultivators in black robes were sitting on the warship. Among the 3, one was tall, one was thin, and the last one looked very majestic. The aura emitted from his body distorted the air slightly, as if it contained a terrifying power. But in the eyes of outsiders, the 3 of them looked very normal. No one could sense anything unusual about them. The 3 of them were demon monarchs whose strength had reached the late stage of the Golden Core realm. They were Demon Monarch Wan Xin, Demon Monarch Willowwood, and Demon Monarch Wu. The sky was clear and boundless, but the expressions of the 3 people were extremely ugly. It seems that he has really escaped this time. Demon Monarch Wan Xin looked around and said in a low voice, Demon Monarch Wuwei's eyes turned colder when he heard that. He looked at Demon Monarch Willowwood in front of him and growled, "You piece of trash. You've already used the soul mark and he still managed to escape? I don't know what's going on either. He was already faster than me when he unleashed his full strength. Who knew that he would suddenly disappear from my perception? I reckon that he must have used some method to conceal himself from the heavens. This method can't be used for a long time. Otherwise, he would have escaped more than 10 days ago." Demon Monarch Willowwood's face turned even uglier. He was so frustrated that he went crazy. During this period, he searched frantically and tried his best to sense the soul mark on Ziyue's body. However, no matter how hard he tried, the soul mark was like a stone sinking into the sea. There was no reaction at all, which made him feel very helpless. "So what? We've been in the cloud-piercing mountain range for half a month, but we still haven't found any trace of him. Forget it, I don't have that much time to waste here with you." Demon Monarch Wuwei snorted and said, "Let's wait a little longer. I can feel that the soul mark hasn't been removed by him. As long as the soul mark is still on his soul, we still have a chance. Moreover, I can vaguely sense that he's still in the cloud-piercing mountain range. Although I can't confirm his location, it's definitely not too far away." Demon Monarch Willowwood's face changed slightly and quickly dissuaded him. "You said the same thing before. Now that 5 days have passed, there's still no news." Demon Monarch Wuwei said coldly, "Give me 3 more days. After 3 days, if there is still no news, then I," as Devil Monarch Willowwood spoke. His expression suddenly froze. Then, he suddenly revealed an expression of ecstasy. He growled, "I searched high and low for you, only to find you by chance. This time, you definitely won't be able to escape." As he spoke, he immediately leapt out of the warship and charged off in a certain direction. "You found it! You found Adept Dark North." Demon Monarch Wuwei and Demon Monarch Wansen were pleasantly surprised as well. They quickly kept their warships and chased after him. Almost in an instant their speed reached the maximum. 1,000 miles, 900 miles, 800 miles. They approached each other at an extremely fast speed. There was a clear difference between their speeds. Among them, Demon Monarch Wuwei's speed was the fastest. Even though he was behind Demon Monarch Willowwood, in a short span of a few breaths, he overtook him and rushed to the very front. At this time, he slowed down slightly and maintained the same position as Demon Monarch Willowwood. Behind them was Demon Monarch Wansen, who was in the advanced stage of the Golden Elixir realm. His speed was slower than Demon Monarch Willowwood, and the distance between them was increasing. He should be cultivating in seclusion on one of the mountains up ahead. At this time, he is still standing there motionlessly. Demon Monarch Willowwood said in an excited tone. Demon Monarch Wuwei nodded silently. As the aura on his body circulated, a faint and terrifying pressure spread out. Then, he quickly restrained it. He had been waiting for a long time for this attack. This time, he had to capture Adept Dark North in one fell swoop and kill him to obtain the precious treasure. Thinking of what Demon Monarch Willowwood and Demon Monarch Wansen had said, and the many rumors he had heard about Adept Dark North, he was somewhat agitated. The depressing feeling from before had also dissipated completely. Spiritual treasure. He suspected that the reason why Adept Dark North was so strong was because he had a spiritual treasure that was more powerful than an immortal spirit treasure. This time, he had to get his hands on the spiritual treasure. Are we almost there? Ziyue displayed the Shadow Realm. Even if he was floating in the void, it would be difficult for anyone to find him. Under such circumstances, he displayed the minor evasion technique. The faint sense of threat became more obvious, and a glimmer of light flashed in his eyes. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths, as he waited in silence, he suddenly saw 2 figures shooting over from the distant horizon like 2 bolts of lightning. Soon, another figure rushed out from behind them. They are here. Demon Monarch Wei, Demon Monarch Wanson, who is the other one? It should be Demon Monarch Willowwood. There were only a few experts in the world. Regardless of whether they were demon cultivators, immortal spell cultivators, or demon clan experts, as long as they were in the golden elixir realm and above, someone would definitely record them. This time, the two golden elixir realm experts of the Skymist sect came to investigate the news of the demon monarch. Naturally, they obtained some information and knew their identities. Ziyue's status in the Qingshu sect was not extremely high, but it was not difficult for him to obtain this information. Therefore, he already knew the identities of the three demon monarchs and their general means of fighting against them. At this time, when he saw the three demon monarchs rushing over quickly following the fluctuation of the soul mark, he was very excited, but his face was very calm. Under the perfect shadow realm, he displayed the heaven patching skill, the god's dharma body, the thunder escape light, the five emperors' royal robe, and many other methods, but his aura was not exposed at all. 30,000 meters, 20,000 meters, 10,000 meters. They were getting closer and closer, especially Demon Monarch Willowwood and Demon Monarch Wei, who rushed to the front. Standing where Ziyue was, he could clearly see the excitement in their eyes. Then, in the blink of an eye, they rushed past Ziyue. They ignored Ziyue, who was standing aside, and rushed directly past him. Then, in an instant, they burst out a terrifying blow and fiercely blasted toward the small mountain not far away. Rumble! The void trembled, and the small mountain, which was 800 meters high, was immediately flattened by this terrifying blow. The perfect shadow realm is really unparalleled in terms of concealment. Both of them had the strength of a demon at the peak of the gold elixir realm. They rushed past me, and Demon Monarch Wei was less than 300 meters away from me, but he didn't notice me at all. He directly attacked the hill where I had placed the soul mark. Ziyue had expected such a result. At this time, seeing that they really could not detect him in the shadow realm, his expression became more and more indifferent. He hurriedly waved his hand and unleashed the great essence-fused magnetic slash. Once the magnetic slash was unleashed, it was silent but extremely fast. In a flash, it rushed behind Demon Monarch Wei and Demon Monarch Willowwood. Huh? What's going on? After the blow, Demon Monarch Willowwood felt that the soul mark he had pointed out before disappeared in an instant. He could not help but feel a little stunned. It should be known that the soul mark was extremely difficult to remove, and once he lost the sense of it at a close distance, either the other party had used a powerful means to conceal the divine secret, or the other party had died. When a cultivator died and his soul was scattered, his soul mark would naturally dissipate and cease to exist. But, wasn't it too simple? They just made a blow, and the result was that immortal Baiming, who had been chased by him for more than 10 days and could not find him, and could even burst out the strength of the middle and late stage of the gold core stage, died? It was so easy that it was a little too much, which surprised him greatly. However, when he thought of the fact that the other party was only at the peak of the divine realm, it was normal for the other party to be killed when he was caught off guard and was attacked by him and senior brother Wei, two experts at the peak of the gold core realm. But he did not know why, in his heart, he felt that something was wrong. Is he dead? On the other side, Demon Monarch Wei was also a little confused, and he could not help but release his senses. But soon, his expression changed, and without thinking, he opened a diamond-shaped shield and blocked behind him. His body immediately flashed, and he quickly retreated. Be careful! At the same time, Demon Monarch Wan Sen's voice transmitted to him. Demon Monarch Willowwood finally reacted and hurriedly took out a middle-grade gold core defensive shield. However, it was a little too late for him to react now. The great magnetic slash came. Without making any sound, it streaked across the sky. Sizzle! It landed on the defensive shield of the middle-grade golden core, and did not stop at all. With a ripping sound, it cut the shield into two. It seemed to have done so effortlessly. With a flash, it landed on Devil Monarch Willowwood's body. It cut through his Taoist robe, his Jindan essence that protected his body, his physical body that had been refined by his Jindan essence, and even the golden core that was hidden in his Dantian. Everything was cut into two. This attack was too sudden. In addition, Ziyue was already prepared, and he instantly used the Great Magnetic Slash, which was at the level of complete mastery, without any sound. At the same time, Ziyue, who was already at the early stage of the Gold Core stage, used the power of the Purple Pole Golden Core to cast the attack, which was extremely powerful and terrifying. Immediately, there was an amazing result. Demon Monarch Willowwood was dead. Demon Monarch Willowwood, who was at the peak of the Gold Core stage, was very powerful. However, not only was his body slashed apart by this strike, even his golden core was slashed into two. No matter how formidable and heaven-defying his ability was, he was powerless to reverse the situation and directly perished. Chapter 598. On the other side, Ziyue's magnetic force slash had also enveloped Demon Lord Wue. The moment Demon Lord Willowwood was killed, the magnetic force slash had also landed on the diamond-shaped shield. Bang! With a loud bang, although the diamond-shaped shield was not cut into two, it was instantly sent flying. The terrifying force of the slash did not diminish and continued to slash downwards. However, Demon Lord Wue's reaction was not slow and his speed was even more astonishing. In a flash, he had dodged the attack. It was too sudden. Ziyue's attack was too sudden. Even with his strength, he did not notice Ziyue's figure at all. He also did not expect that his opponent's attack would be so silent, which was why he suffered a loss. Most importantly, Demon Lord Willowwood was dead. An expert at the peak of the Golden Elixir realm was killed at the beginning of the battle. Moreover, his opponent's attack was so terrifying that he felt a chill in his heart. Conferred king? He was only one step away from being conferred king, so he was very clear about the strength of a conferred king's attack. It was far from being as terrifying as this attack. Half step to the primordial soul realm. This was an attack that only a half-step to the primordial soul realm expert could perform. How is this possible? Then, he turned to look in the direction of the attack. His heart skipped a beat and his face turned extremely ugly in an instant. Since Bai Ziyue was attacking, he naturally couldn't perfectly merge into the shadow domain like before and completely disappear into thin air. Therefore, Demon Lord Wue immediately saw Ziyue's face clearly. He is Spiritual Master Dark North? He was stunned. He could not believe his own eyes. He was incomparably sullen and angry. The memory of an immortal spell cultivator was countless times better than that of an ordinary person. Even though they had only met once, he still recognized Bai Ziyue at first glance. Bai Ziyue was the God Realm cultivator that he and Demon Monarch Wan Xin had met more than 10 days ago. The fear and trepidation that he had felt when facing them back then was still vivid in his mind. However, he would never have thought that the little cultivator that they had thought was no threat at all was actually the person they had been looking for, Spiritual Master Dark North. He is Spiritual Master Dark North? Demon Lord Wanson, who was still flying towards the battlefield, was also shocked. When he thought of how he and the others had watched Spiritual Master Dark North slip away right before their eyes, the gloominess in his heart could not be washed away even if he poured all his strength into it. In particular, he recalled that he had deliberately used his identity as a Sky Sect Golden Elixir Realm cultivator to show off in front of the other party and enjoyed the pleasure of teasing and fooling. Now that he thought of it, although the other party had expressed his respect and fear and trepidation, his eyes had been very calm from beginning to end. Clearly, Adept Dark North had recognized the two of them from the very beginning. It was laughable that he had thought that the other party was easy to fool. In the end, he was the real fool. At this moment, he was. of the demon Lord Wanson, especially after he discovered that Adept Darknortha's aura was different from before. He felt even more pain in his heart. Golden Elixir Realm. Adept Darknorth was already at the Golden Core stage. He and Lord Wanson's sex, and Lord Wanson and the others. Realm was Realm Cultivator Realm. Realm Cultivator. Now that the other party had crossed this realm, his strength had undergone a tremendous change. Naturally, he would want to take revenge. You were lucky to have slipped away before our eyes the last time. This time you actually dared to take the initiative to show up and attack. You are really seeking your own death. After the initial shock, Demon Lord Wanson's sex expression suddenly turned cold. His body immediately rushed out like a bolt of lightning. A small silver knife flashed by and charged toward Ziyue at high speed. Seeking my own death? If you think so, then so be it. Ziyue smiled coldly. Under the support of the heaven patching technique and the god's Dharma body, his strength had really reached an earth-shattering level. He took a step forward. With a swoosh, he had already disappeared from the spot and dodged the attack of the other party's small knife. Then, he used all his strength to display the shadow domain. The terrifying and thick shadow fog quickly swept out and directly enveloped Demon Lord Wanson's sect. How can your domain be so strong? Demon Lord Wanson's sect, who had just burst out with extreme speed, slowed down and his expression changed. Both of them were in the Gold Core realm. He was at the peak of the Gold Core realm, while Ziyue was only in the early stage of the Gold Core realm. His domain might not be stronger than his opponent's, but at least his speed should not be affected. After all, although there would be a difference in strength between domains, relying on his own domain, it was enough to support a spacious space for him to run rampant on the battlefield. However, the moment Ziyue's shadow domain swept out, the surging and tyrannical power was really beyond his expectations. It actually reduced the speed that he was proud of greatly. Ziyue did not answer. He stretched out his hand and suddenly slashed. In the void, there were immediately countless sword lights rushing into the sky and then quickly falling down. In the vast and mighty, it seemed to have sealed the whole world. Great magic, 5 Emperors' heaven-sealing sword. Rumble. Countless sword shadows fell, as if covering the sky and the sun, and quickly formed sword-shaped cages. These sword-shaped cages, one after another, quickly formed a huge sword-shaped cage and fell straight toward Demon Lord Wanson's sect. Demon Lord Wanson's sect was shocked. His figure flashed continuously. Sensing that his speed was limited, it was difficult for him to rush out of the sword-shaped cage in advance. His expression changed wildly, and the aura on his body quickly rose and suddenly soared. In an instant, he broke through the shackles and rushed into the distance. Secret skill, soul burning. He had no choice but to use the soul burning technique. Seeing this, Ziyue appeared to be very calm. With a point of his hand, a ball of spiritual light rushed out. Then, a huge, almost solid human figure suddenly appeared above Ziyue's head. Under Ziyue's control, this human figure's face was hidden, as if it was shrouded in fog. Ha! The human-shaped shadow suddenly let out a soft shout. Immediately, a grayish ripple shot out. Magic, minor forbidden spirit technique. Natal magic, mind loss. At this moment, Ziyue used 2 powerful techniques at the same time. Although the minor forbidden spirit technique's level was low, it was still extremely powerful under the repair of the heaven patching technique. At this moment, it directly landed on Demon Monarch Wuwei's body. His aura, which had just skyrocketed, immediately froze and then suddenly collapsed. Under the effect of the minor forbidden spirit technique, the core energy in his body was quickly sealed. Although he quickly broke through the barrier, his speed was slowed down again. Chapter 599. Following that, streaks of grayish-green light rushed into his mind and landed on his golden core. Chi-Chi. The strong soul impact continued to engulf him, causing his soul to feel a sharp pain. Even his thoughts came to a standstill. Because of this, he completely lost the possibility of escaping the seal. As Ziyue's strength broke through to the golden core realm, the strength of his soul also increased greatly. Especially when his soul was integrated into his golden core. The stronger and higher the grade of the golden core condensed by an immortal spell cultivator, the greater the increase in the strength of his soul. Although he was only at the early stage of the golden core realm, the golden core he condensed was the rare amethyst golden core. Moreover, it was a complete and pure amethyst golden core. The increase in strength of his soul had reached an unparalleled level. Even now, his strength had not stopped growing, and the strength of his soul was still increasing every moment. He estimated that the strength of his soul was not much weaker than that of an advanced golden core realm cultivator. And with the wonders and power of his innate divine ability, it would be of great use to an expert at the peak of the golden core realm. In an instant, the Jindan energy that had just risen from his body dissipated once again. His body completely stopped moving, and his soul became sluggish. 1 breath, 2 breaths, after a full 2 breaths, he finally recovered from the incomparable pain. Then, he felt the world shake, and he happened to see that countless sword lights had fallen around him, sealing him inside. How is this possible? Demon Monarch Wu was stunned by Ziyue's successive attacks. He was in disbelief. But soon, he came to his senses and hurriedly swallowed his core essence. In an instant, a blood-red long saber turned into a stream of light and slashed fiercely on the sword wall. Rumble! The sword wall shook slightly, and the spiritual light immediately dimmed. However, it did not break. Instead, the sword wall, which was originally a little dim, began to recover, and its defensive power increased again. Not enough. Demon Monarch Wu's expression changed. Even though he had long sensed that Reverend Darknorth was extraordinary, and now that he had broken through to the golden core stage, he had even dared to come alone and ambush the 3 of them. However, this casual attack from the other party still shocked him. His Blood Drinker Soul Devourer saber had already been upgraded to the level of a supreme golden core treasure. Combined with his strength, it was almost as powerful as a titled Emperor's attack. However, such a powerful attack only caused the sword wall to dim slightly, and not even half of its strength was consumed. On top of that, his opponent's speed was not inferior to his own. That incomparably tyrannical great magnetic slash, as well as that technique that could seal his Jindan essence and blunt his soul, his strength has definitely surpassed mine. Demon Monarch Wu felt a chill in his heart, and his sense of crisis immediately became extremely strong. He was one of the top experts in the peak of the Golden Elixir realm. He was only 1 step away from becoming an emperor. However, Reverend Darknorth had displayed greater combat strength than him. That definitely meant that his opponent already had the strength of an emperor. That magnetic slash especially shocked him when he thought of it. The power of that attack had surpassed the peak of the Golden Elixir realm, the Emperor level, and the limits of the Golden Elixir realm expert. Half a step into the primordial soul realm. Or even the true primordial soul realm. Only experts at the half a step into the primordial soul realm and above could unleash such an attack that could cut through everything and even space. He was shocked. He immediately felt the urge to retreat. Run. I have to run. Perhaps Reverend Darknorth really does have a powerful spiritual treasure that can change one's fate. However, although the spiritual treasure is good, I need to be alive to take it. This was because he knew very well how terrifying a titled emperor was. He also knew how powerful an attack that surpassed the Golden Elixir realm was. Therefore, he gritted his teeth and did not hesitate to use his secret technique, the art of soul ignition. Chi, his aura suddenly surged, and as it soared, a strong blood chi spread out. Then, he used his Jindan essence to control the blood-red long saber and slashed. He even unleashed a series of offensive divine abilities, slamming them fiercely against the sword wall. Boom, boom, boom. Finally, the sword wall was split open. Die. However, at this moment, Ziyue stretched out his hand again, and a black silk thread quickly slashed across. It was so fast that it seemed to have cut the space in half. A layer of violent ripples spread out, and it took a long time for the space to close up. Demon Lord Wuwei's expression changed drastically, and the blood-red light on his body surged. With the help of the art of soul ignition, his speed reached the maximum and he quickly shot into the distance. However, although his speed was fast, it was not faster than the speed of the magnetic slash. He only had time to dodge before he felt his legs turn cold, and he lost all feeling. He also sensed waves of terrifying power gushing into his body and wreaking havoc on it. Whether it was an immortal cultivator or a demonic cultivator, as long as they did not reach the immortal soul stage, the physical body was extremely important. This was because there were acupuncture points in every part of the body. Once they were severed, the power of many mystiques would be greatly reduced. They would need to use high-grade spirit pills to regrow their limbs, reignite their acupuncture points, and refine them for a long time to recover. At this moment, he had lost both his legs, and his acupuncture points had been reduced by more than 100. Under the effect of the art of soul ignition, his astonishing speed was immediately reduced to the same speed as when he was flying at full speed. Too strong, spiritual master Bei Ming is too strong. Run, run, run. I have to escape as soon as possible. His heart trembled, and he felt even more terrified of his opponent. He quickly turned into a bolt of lightning and rushed away from Ziyue at full speed. His speed was extremely fast, and even if he lost both his legs, his speed was not greatly affected by the art of soul ignition. Therefore, he was very confident. After all, speed was his strength, and it was also the only thing he was confident in, that he was not inferior to an emperor. Like a flash of lightning, he quickly left. Don't you think it's a little too late to escape now? Ziyue sneered. Full combat power, heaven patching technique, godly spirit dharma body, and lightning escape were all used at the same time. In an instant, his entire body turned into a stream of light, and he quickly rushed out at an astonishing speed. He was even faster than Demon Lord Wuwei. This speed? How is this possible? Demon Lord Wuwei was shocked. Not only was his attack power strong, but he did not expect his opponent's speed to be so terrifying. What should I do? With his speed, I can't escape at all. He was completely panicking. He felt a trace of despair and resentment. He despaired of his situation, and he resented Demon Lord Willowwood and Demon Lord Wan Xin even more. If it were not for them, would he be in such a passive situation? Would he be hunted down by such a terrifying existence? Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something, and his heart skipped a beat. He quickly took out a spirit sealing box from his storage bag. He opened the spirit sealing box, and a drop of pitch-black blood that emitted a strong bloody aura appeared in his hand. The blood of a true demon. This was the blood of a true demon. In the immortal spell world, the lowest level of a demon was at the primordial spirit realm. A drop of true demon blood was more precious than primordial spirit essence fluid to a demon cultivator, and it could increase his strength by several times. With the help of this true demon blood, he even dared to compete with a true emperor powerhouse. At this moment of crisis, he did not hesitate to swallow the blood of the true demon. In an instant, the tyrannical aura on his body due to the art of soul ignition expanded once again. Boom! Even his body suddenly grew taller, as if there was an endless force circulating in his body. 3 feet, 2 feet, 3 feet, he only stopped growing when he was 8 feet tall. Powerful. Terrifying. It was as if a demon god had descended to the world, and it could suppress all directions. At this moment, he truly felt how powerful he was. This kind of strength made him have an impulse to turn back and fight with Bai Ziyue. This power was too strong, and he urgently needed to vent it. Therefore, he stopped without hesitation and quickly turned back. As his Jindan essence circulated, he slashed with his blood-red saber. Rumble! There was an explosion in the void as the long saber slashed toward Bai Ziyue rapidly. "You're digging your own grave," Ziyue's indifferent voice suddenly sounded. Then, he stretched out his hand and slashed again, unleashing the magnetic slash once more. The power of all of this seemed to be stronger than before. The void suddenly cracked, and the space barrier faintly wrinkled and cracked. It seemed to contain endless fear. The black magnetic threads slashed down like flowing light, and quickly slashed at Demon Lord Wuwei's blood-red saber. The blood-red saber's spiritual light suddenly dimmed, and with a wail it was sent flying. The magnetic slash's power did not decrease, and it passed through everything. No, it was only then that Demon Lord Wuwei realized how terrifying Ziyue's strength was. It was a kind of strength that surpassed the limit of the Golden Core realm, and was half a step into the Primordial Soul realm, or even the Primordial Soul realm. He thought about how he had used the blood of the true demon, and at most, he dared to fight against a king expert, and that was under the condition that his body was healthy. In the end, because he panicked, he did not control his strength, and his mind was affected by the terrifying demonic qi in the blood of the true demon. Instead, he directly faced off against Ziyue. A trace of fear and despair appeared in his eyes. However, no matter how much he regretted it, it all fell on him in an instant. Chi, under all of this, his entire body, from top to bottom, was directly captured by his golden core. The soul that resided in his golden core was directly cut into two. Poof! His golden core shattered and his soul was destroyed. No matter how powerful he was, he could not escape death. Demon Lord Wuwei had fallen. Chapter 600. Senior Brother Lu Mu is dead. Senior Brother Wu Wei is also dead. Demon Lord Wan Sen's face was deathly pale, and his heart was filled with terror. He did not expect Spiritual Master Bei Ming to be so powerful. He did not expect his two senior brothers, who were at the peak of the Golden Core realm, to be killed in such a short period of time. He could say that Senior Brother Lu Mu had been killed because of a sneak attack. But later, when Senior Brother Wu Wei fought with the other party, in his opinion, the disparity was too great. Senior Brother Wu Wei didn't even have the strength to fight back. In the end, even if he used the soul-burning technique and used the precious true demon blood, he was still killed in a single exchange. Spiritual Master Bei Ming was too powerful. He could not summon the slightest will to resist. Therefore, he did not hesitate to turn around and flee. At this moment, he was rather glad. He rejoiced that he had been slower, which was why he hadn't arrived at the battlefield with his two senior brothers. It was also because he had been slower that his two senior brothers had died before he arrived, allowing him to be far away from Reverend Darknorth. Based on my understanding of Adept Darknorth, he must have used that secret art that can increase his strength. That secret technique is indeed powerful, but the amount of Jindan essence it consumes is also astonishing. Even if he has broken through to the early Golden Core realm, he will not be able to maintain it for long. 30 breaths, at most 30 breaths, and he will not be able to maintain it. Therefore, I will be safe as long as he does not catch up to me within 30 breaths. Demon Lord Wan Sen heaved a sigh of relief when he realized this. He realized that although Spiritual Master Bei Ming was fast, probably only slightly slower than a primordial spirit realm expert, it would still take some time for him to catch up to him. Based on his estimation of the distance, Spiritual Master Bei Ming would need to maintain his full speed for at least 40 breaths to reach him. However, he was also moving during this period. Even if his speed was far inferior to Spiritual Master Bei Ming's, It was enough for him to open up a distance of at least 20 breaths. In other words, spiritual master Bei Ming would have to chase him for at least 60 breaths without stopping to catch up to him. And this was his chance. A chance to escape. You are smart. But you can't escape. Ziyue glanced indifferently at Demon Lord Wan Sun, who was fleeing at full speed. With a wave of his hand, he first kept the corpses of Demon Lord Willowwood and Demon Lord Wue into the Kunlun cave. Then, he burst forth with extreme speed and chased after them. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. Ziyue had expended quite a bit of energy from the intense battle before. He had only been tracking for about 20 breaths of time before he felt a sense of weakness coming from the amethyst golden pellet in his body. However, his expression did not change. With a thought, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth in the Kunlun cave quickly surged and turned into a torrent of energy. It directly overflowed and swept into his body. Then, he continued to devour and convert them, restoring the power of his purple extreme core essence. During this period, his speed was not affected in the slightest. He was still chasing after them at an extremely fast speed. Cultivators of the immortal arts had the means to recover their spiritual energy while they were on the move. Not to mention that Ziyue was using an immortal's abode magic treasure, which was far more convenient and faster than ordinary recovery methods. It was probably only slightly worse than directly swallowing a recovery-type spiritual pill of grade 4 or above. 29 breaths, 30 breaths, 31 breaths. How is this possible? That North Darkness spiritual master did not take any spiritual pills at all, nor did he use any heavenly treasures. How is he able to maintain such an extreme speed for such a long time? Sensing that 30 breaths had passed, Demon Lord Wan Sen's expression changed greatly. In fact, 30 breaths of time was an estimate that he had overestimated his opponent as much as possible. He had guessed that Ziyue would be exhausted in 20 breaths of time at most. After all, that kind of extreme speed was extremely taxing on a cultivator's physical body and Jindan essence. But now, 30 breaths of time had passed, and his opponent's speed did not slow down at all. Like a flash of light, he was as fast as lightning. He found it hard to believe. 31 breaths, 32 breaths, 33 breaths. The more time passed, the more Demon Lord Wan Sen's heart sank. 40 breaths of time. What kind of monster is he? Could it be that his Jindan essence will not be exhausted? Even if he had condensed a grade 1 golden core, the Jindan essence in his body should have been exhausted by now. Demon Lord Wan Sun could not help but panic. Even for him, flying at full speed for such a long time was somewhat strenuous. By now, more than half of the Jindan essence in his body had been used up. But his opponent had maintained such an extreme speed, and his Jindan essence was unbelievably dense. This caused him to feel a sense of despair in his heart. Could it be that he still has some kind of treasure on him that can continuously supply him with Jindan essence? Suddenly, a thought appeared in Demon Lord Wan Sen's mind. Soon after, he felt a wave of horror. Grotto Heaven treasure. He suddenly remembered the reason why he and the others had been chasing after North Darkness spiritual master. It was North Darkness spiritual master who had snatched the true demon Grotto Heaven. According to what he knew, once an immortal spell cultivator completely refined a Grotto Heaven treasure, if there was still a spirit vein in it, he could borrow the power of the spirit vein to quickly recover his energy. When he thought of this, Demon Lord Wan Sun was in complete despair. No. Senior, please spare my life. I am willing to serve you as my master and swear a heart demon blood oath. Please let me go. Moreover, our deaths will definitely attract the attention of my sect. I can also help you hide and avoid being tracked. Demon Lord Wan Sun hurriedly took out a shield to protect himself as he shouted in panic. There is no need for that. However, Ziyue's voice was indifferent and his eyes were incomparably cold. If it was an ordinary cultivator, he might have some thoughts, After all, any immortal spell cultivator who could reach the golden core stage was quite extraordinary. At the very least, they could be his helper in battle. However, demonic spell cultivators were not only cunning, but they also had all kinds of sinister methods. It was hard to guarantee that they would have the means to break the heart demon blood oath. Just like himself, didn't he also create a technique that specialized in breaking the backlash of an oath? As for the other sex tracking, he did not care at all. Unless a primordial soul realm expert intervened, no one would be able to track him down with his shadow domain's ability to conceal himself from the heavens. Therefore, with a thought, he waved his hand and a black thread shot out again. The great primordial magnet slash appeared again. No, Demon Lord Wansen screamed in horror and took out a shield to defend himself. Suddenly, many silver-white goo worms appeared on his body. These goo worms looked small, but in the blink of an eye, they formed a defensive robe that resembled armor. Even with 2 layers of defense, Demon Lord Wansen still did not feel safe. He used defensive talismans and defensive techniques one after another. Sizzle, puff. The great primordial magnet slash landed. The defensive shield had just recovered when it was slashed by the black primordial magnet slash. It was almost effortlessly sliced the shield into 2. Then, the remaining force landed on the beetles. With just a light touch, the beetles nearby were all killed and their upgrades stopped. Finally, the remaining force landed directly on Demon Lord Wansen's body. No matter how many defensive techniques he used, it was all to no avail. Even Demon Lord Willowwood and Demon Lord Wuwei, who were at the peak of the Golden Core realm, could not retaliate against his great primordial magnet slash. How could he, who was only at the late Golden Core realm, be able to do anything to him? Puff! His entire body was sliced into 2. Even the golden core in his body was sliced into 2. When the golden core shattered, his soul dissipated. Naturally, his soul also dissipated. Spiritual energy plus 125-32548. Finally dead. He killed the 3 demon sovereigns. It was only then that Xiue's face relaxed. Chapter 601. This battle was not too difficult for him. He even seemed to be relaxed. However, it also allowed him to truly understand the extent of his current strength. That demon monarch Wuwei was definitely at the first level of the peak of the Golden Elixir realm. Now I can easily kill him. Above the first level of the peak of the Golden Elixir realm is the king level. Now, with all my combat strength, I should have the combat strength of a king level. Xiue pondered silently and soon came to a conclusion. Even he was a little surprised by this result. However, after thinking about it carefully, he felt that it was reasonable. Many of his great magical powers had already reached the perfection level and were naturally powerful. In addition, he formed the perfect violet golden core when he broke through to the Golden Elixir realm. The level of his power was actually much higher than ordinary experts of the same realm. In addition to the enhancement of the godly spiritual body and the perfection of the heaven patching technique, his combat strength was naturally 10 times or even 100 times that of ordinary cultivators of the same realm. With the death of the 3 demon monarchs, the danger above my head has been removed. The 5th grade can finally take revenge for being hunted down by them. Then, Xiue narrowed his eyes and could not help but reveal a trace of satisfaction. Since he started cultivating, he had encountered countless enemies. There were also many who made him feel a great sense of danger. However, he had never been in a situation like before where he was marked with a soul mark and was hunted down crazily for more than half a month. Therefore, he had a deep memory of it, and there wasn't a moment when he didn't want to take revenge. Especially after he broke through to the Golden Elixir realm, this thought became stronger. For this reason, he deliberately kept the soul mark that he broke free from and used the minor evasion technique to sense danger to get close to them. Then, with the help of the soul mark, he made a plan. Although it was not deliberate, it still took a lot of effort. Finally, he captured and killed the 3 of them in one fell swoop. Then, he put Demon Monarch Wan Sen's body into the cave and took out the warship. Boom! The warship rose into the air. Under Bai Ziue's control, it quickly charged in a certain direction. In a courtyard attic, 2 young men sat opposite each other. One of them had a deep aura and a natural Taoist connotation. He was actually an early gold core realm cultivator. As for the other one, he had a delicate face and was also at the peak of the god realm. He was not weak. At this moment, the cultivator with a delicate face suddenly raised his head and looked at the person opposite him. He said seriously, "Senior Brother Guahai, I don't want to work hard anymore. I know my talent. No matter how hard I work, I will only be able to reach the solid core level in the future. I will never be able to reach the golden core level. So I don't want to work hard anymore." What? Does Junior Brother Tong want to give up on cultivation? You've just participated in the Sex Grand Competition and won the top 10 position in the Divine Realm. It's the time when you have a bright future. It's said that even the Sex old ancestors are full of admiration for you. Now that you say you're giving up, aren't you destroying your own future? Senior Brother Guahai was stunned for a moment before he tried to persuade him. The 2 of them joined the True Devil Sect one after another. Inside the Devil Sect, it was dangerous and treacherous, but it was not true that they did not have any friends. The 2 of them had been in the same sect for more than 100 years, so they naturally had a certain level of friendship. Senior Brother Guahai, I understand. Junior Brother Tong shook his head, as if he had finally made a decision. He quickly took out a communication magic treasure and chose to send a message. "Auntie, I don't want to work hard anymore. This kind of life is too tiring. And it's too dangerous. Not only do I have to guard against the dangers lurking everywhere outside, but I also have to guard against the insidious plots of my fellow disciples. I don't want to work hard anymore. You've thought it through? I've told you a long time ago that you'll never be able to stand out on your own. Come and find me tomorrow. I'll keep the spirit vein of Qinjun Mountain for you. In addition, the 300 shops in Wind-Seeking City, the 4th grade spirit vein of Dingshu Mountain, and the 7th 3rd grade spirit vein of Dingshu Mountain are all yours. By the way, you can also cultivate the top-level cultivation method, Supreme True Devil Technique, and the Taoist technique Demon God's Thorn right away. As for the other cultivation resources, I think you know that you won't be short of them even if I don't tell you." Soon, a woman's voice that seemed to be somewhat dignified came from the communication magic treasure. "Thank you, Auntie. I'll come and find you tomorrow." Junior Brother Tong's face lit up and he quickly replied, "Is that Matriarch Xuelian's voice? I've never heard of her before. Does she like men?" Senior Brother Guahai was dumbfounded as he looked at Junior Brother Tong suspiciously. How could he be treated well if he didn't work hard? He couldn't help muttering inwardly, could it be that she likes men like Junior Brother Tong? But I'm obviously more attractive. My body is robust, my shoulders are broad, and my waist is round. Most importantly, my penis is huge, and I can do all sorts of poses with ease. Senior Brother Guahai grew excited at the thought. There was no reason for Matriarch Xuelian to dislike men like him. He quickly took out his communication magic treasure and chose to send a message without hesitation. Soon, the other party picked up. Demon Monarch Guahai spoke directly, "Auntie, I don't want to work hard either. This kind of life is too tiring. It's also too dangerous. Not only do I have to guard against the dangers lurking everywhere outside, but I also have to guard against the insidious plots of my fellow disciples. I don't want to work hard anymore." As he spoke, he still felt that it wasn't safe. Without hesitation, he quickly took off all his clothes and aimed them at his penis. He straightened his body slightly and continued, "Auntie, I'll definitely satisfy you. Guahai, you're very good. Get your master here immediately. I'd like to see how Ku-gu teaches his disciples. If I don't see you and your disciple kneeling down and apologizing today, I'll flatten your entire Mount Kushi. Soon, an incomparably loud roar was heard from the communication magic treasure. Immediately after, Demon Monarch Guahai vaguely sensed a shocking aura soaring into the sky from a great distance. It was heading straight for the mountain range where his master, Patriarch Ku-gu, was. Demon Monarch Guahai's face paled and he was dumbfounded. What was going on? Why was there such a huge difference in treatment when the same words were spoken? Even nascent soul patriarchs would be tempted by the benefits that junior brother Tong had received. It could be said that he had reached the heavens in a single bound. But in the end, thinking of how terrifying Matriarch Xuelian was, he suddenly shuddered all over. At this very moment, junior brother Tong, who was standing opposite him, was also dumbfounded and speechless as he looked at him. After a long while, he finally said with some difficulty, "Senior brother Guahai, you'd better put on your clothes first." "What's going on? Why is there such a huge difference in treatment when the same words are spoken? Am I being too rash?" Demon Monarch Guahai asked blankly. "Matriarch Xuelian is my auntie." "Really, auntie? Patriarch Ku-gu, the vice sect master, is my uncle's husband." Junior brother Tong suddenly looked at senior brother Guahai with some pity. Even if senior brother was extraordinarily talented, and had condensed a first-grade golden core when he broke through to the golden core realm, the consequences of offending two nascent soul patriarchs would definitely not be too good. It would be very tragic. Demon Monarch Guahai's face paled, and he felt a chill in his heart. Chapter 602. It's over. Demon Lord Guahai looked at junior brother Tong and said in despair, "Why didn't you say so earlier? You were so fast that I couldn't stop you in time." Junior brother Tong said innocently, "Then tell me, will Mother Xuelian kill me?" Demon Lord Guahai continued asking. "I don't think so." Junior brother Tong shook his head and continued, "She probably won't do it herself." "You might as well not say it," Demon Monarch Guahai said bitterly. On the warship, Zeus sat cross-legged in the secret cultivation room. Although the fourth-grade warship looked shabby on the outside, the decorations inside were very luxurious. It was pleasing to the eye and also gave off a sense of calmness. Obviously, the decorations were very meticulous. The Tao was naturally formed and suitable for cultivators to live in. In the secret cultivation room, he could also control the warship to fly at high speed. He only needed to divert a little of his attention. This was not difficult for him. Therefore, he quickly focused on the spoils of war of the three demon lords. The bodies of the three demon monarchs contain a terrifying amount of energy. It didn't matter before, but now it can nourish the spiritual soil of the Kunlun Grotto Heaven. With a thought, Zeus ground and crushed the corpses of the three demon lords and scattered them evenly throughout the entire Grotto Heaven. The terrifying energy dissipated. Under the nourishment of the essence of flesh and blood, all kinds of plants and spiritual materials in the Grotto Heaven began to grow rapidly. Spiritual materials were born one after another. Trees were uprooted one after another. Many exotic flowers and herbs were also transformed and upgraded. Even Hudali and the black puppy were jubilant. They had benefited greatly from it. Then, Zeus shifted his gaze to their storage bags. Experts at the Golden Core Realm, especially those at the late stage and peak stage of the Golden Core Realm, do indeed have a lot of good things on them. There are more than 10 Golden Core treasures in total. All kinds of spiritual materials and treasures are far superior to those of Golden Core cultivators. It's a pity that there are no great inheritances left behind. Many of them are things that only demon cultivators can use. Zeus opened the 3 storage bags one by one and burned all the items that belonged to the fiendish cultivators. Then, he began to count the other items. There are quite a lot of spiritual stones. There are more than 800,000 superior-grade spiritual stones in total. There are all kinds of rare treasures, talismans, and even spiritual pills. Although I can't use most of them, they are all excellent. Oh right, if I have no use for these treasures, I can throw them into the grotto heaven. In this heavenly abode, the space is vast. It is even bigger than the number 1 immortal city in the Piercing Cloud mountain range, Piercing Cloud City. In addition, there is an abundance of spirit chi and resources. I can use this as a foundation to develop and establish a sect. As Bai Zhue sorted out his gains, he pondered silently. Perhaps it would not help him increase his strength or improve his realm. But the path of immortality was long, and he needed to pursue something. His foundation was already very deep. With a grade 4 spirit vein and his own gains, there was no problem for him to provide for a few cultivators. Thinking of this, he suddenly took out a communication talisman and gave a few instructions. Then, like throwing garbage, he scattered many spiritual objects that were worthless in his eyes but valuable in the eyes of low-level cultivators all over the Kunlun Grotto heaven. He was like a supreme being who created the world. He threw the treasures one by one, either sinking them into the sea, burying them deep in the mountains, or throwing them on the side of a mountain road. Some were even hung on a small tree. As the saying goes, treasures have their own intelligence. Their aura was natural and extraordinary. Over the years, it would inevitably cause the environment around them to change. It could even cause some animals and plants to transform. Zhue was looking forward to this. What is this? Suddenly, Bai Zhue stretched out his hand and beckoned. A lustrous white paper appeared in his hand. If he remembered correctly, this paper was obtained from the storage bag of the Wuwei demon monarch. The demon monarch seemed to value it very much and specially used a jade box to store it. Zhue immediately understood that this paper was unusual. The paper was very hard. Zhue hurriedly swept it with his divine sense, and quickly understood that this was also a kind of jade scroll pupil. However, it was much more advanced. It was a rare true image book that could record the movements of people and images. His divine sense probed it. Soon, the records in it appeared in Zhue's mind. What is recorded in this true image book is actually some records about the star source Divine Mountain. Not only does it record the origin of the star source Divine Mountain, but there are also some relatively detailed records and introductions about the first 3 levels of the star source Divine Mountain. There are even introductions about the treasures in the 4th and 5th levels. After a long while, Zhue came back to his senses. His eyes flashed with a trace of contemplation and shock. He had always known that there were a total of 4 forbidden lands in the firmament territory. They were like forbidden lands for many primordial spirit realm experts. The star source Divine Mountain was one of them. However, he had never thought that the star source Divine Mountain had such a great origin. According to the True Image Book, the star source Divine Mountain is not from this world. In fact, it was a divine mountain that suddenly appeared in this world 50,000 years ago. According to legend, it is from the upper world. As soon as it appeared, it immediately attracted countless cultivators from all over the world. However, in the depths of the mountain, there was not only the power of the star source, but also the unparalleled gravity that made it difficult for cultivators to move. There were also many terrifying star beasts that were born there. Therefore, even though there were many good things in the star source Divine Mountain, such as the unique star source stone, the accompanying star source Divine Jade, the star fruit, and the Tao flower, even Golden Core Realm and Primordial Spirit Realm experts were very cautious when entering. As for God Realm cultivators, they would at most dare to wander around the 1st and 2nd levels. In the past 50,000 years, there were no less than 10 primordial spirit realm experts who had died there. Therefore, this place is called a forbidden land, and countless people shrink back at the sight of it. Zhue's expression was still calm as he recalled the records in the True Image Book. He had long known that this world was very big, and he also knew that this was not the only world in the immortal spell world. Putting everything else aside, although the world in his previous life was much smaller than this world, and there were almost no immortal spell cultivators, it was still a world that was different from this world. However, when he read the description of some of the treasures in the Star Source Divine Mountain in the True Image book, he was shocked. On the 4th level of the Star Source Divine Mountain, there is a treasure called the Book of Dao. It is said that it is a spiritual treasure-level treasure that contains endless wonders and supreme creation. It can also help cultivators deduce cultivation techniques and evolve the Great Tao. There are even cultivators who use the Book of Dao to deduce and evolve supreme cultivation techniques and Tao technique. As for the 5th level, there is a clock of time. If a cultivator is in the clock of time, they can feel the difference in the flow of time. 1 day is equivalent to 100 days in the outside world, 1 month is equivalent to 100 months in the outside world, and 1 year is equivalent to 100 years. Ziwa was shocked. The effects of these two treasures would definitely be shocking to the heavens and earth. Not to mention the clock of time, which was equivalent to speeding up a cultivator's cultivation time and allowing one's strength to soar rapidly in a short period of time. It could be called a supreme treasure. Just the Book of the Great Tao alone made his eyes light up. He was originally a little worried about how he was going to create a golden core realm cultivation technique. Now that he saw the records of the Book of Dao, he immediately had an idea. This Book of Dao can help one deduce true spells and create Tao technique. It will definitely help me create my own golden core level cultivation technique. I was originally a little hesitant about whether to enter the Star Source Divine Mountain when passing by the Gusha mountain range. Now it seems that it is imperative. Ziwa pondered, and a trace of determination flashed across his eyes. He had never thought of snatching the Book of Dao directly. Not to mention that the Book of Dao was in the 4th level of the Star Source Divine Mountain, which was full of danger, and even Essence Soul Realm experts had died there. It was just that in the past 50,000 years, although there were cultivators who made use of opportunities to deduce cultivation techniques and Abhijna and Tao techniques from the Book of Dao, no one could take it away from the Star Source Divine Mountain. One could imagine how difficult it was. No matter how confident he was in his own strength, he did not dare to compare himself to an Essence Soul Realm expert. He did not think that he could do something that even an Essence Soul Realm expert could not do. He only wanted to deduce cultivation techniques with the help of the Book of Dao like other cultivators. Chapter 603. There's no specific description of the dangers on the 4th level. As far as I know, the number of primordial spirit realm cultivators who died on the 4th level in the past 50,000 years is no less than the 5-finger technique. As for the 5th level, it's said that even mid- and late-stage primordial spirit realm cultivators don't dare set foot there. Ziwa pondered silently, estimating the level of danger on the 4th level. Extremely high. As many as 5 primordial spirit realm cultivators had died. Although his combat strength was strong, he was definitely inferior to primordial spirit realm cultivators. However, he didn't want to give up so easily. There are also records of Golden Core realm cultivators setting foot on the 4th level of the Stellar Sacred Mountain. There are also records of Golden Core realm cultivators using the Book of the Great Tao to deduce cultivation methods and technique. In other words, Golden Core realm cultivators have a chance of entering the 4th level and obtaining the Book of the Great Tao. It all depends on luck. Of course, the most important thing is still strength. Ziwa felt that his luck wasn't bad, and his strength was comparable to the average Golden Core realm cultivators. He also had the trump card of time reversal, so he had a certain level of confidence. There are also good things on the 3rd level of the Stellar Sacred Mountain. The Tao Flower. It's said to be a sacred cultivation item. With the help of the Tao Flower, a cultivator can rebuild their foundation and increase the number of acupoints ignited. In other words, a cultivator who originally ignited 1,000 acupoints can use the Tao flower to rebuild and ignite even more acupoints. It's not difficult for Golden Core Realm cultivators to ignite 50 or 60 acupoints with the help of the Tao flower. Divinity Realm cultivators can also ignite more than 100 acupoints. It's considered a supreme treasure for many genius cultivators. Bai Ziyue's heart skipped a beat when he read the introduction to the Tao flower. The Aperture Awakening Realm could be said to be the most important stage in the cultivation of immortal technique. It was the stage of strengthening one's foundation. At this stage, the more profound one's accumulation was, the more acupoints one could ignite, and the higher one's future potential would be. However, there were no regrets in the Great Tao. Once the number of acupoints ignited in the Aperture Awakening Realm was insufficient, it would be very difficult to change. Even some Grade 3 and Grade 4 spirit pills could only ignite a few acupoints. It did not have much of an effect on a cultivator's potential. However, this Tao flower had the ability to reconstruct one's foundation and ignite more than 100 acupoints of a divine realm cultivator and dozens of acupoints of a golden core cultivator. To many genius cultivators who had broken through to the divine realm early on, its value was limitless. It could be said that any deity realm cultivator, or even golden core realm cultivator, would yearn for it even in their dreams. Although Bai Ziyue did not have a great need for it, he was still able to use it. But they would not overlook his value. As for the first and second floors, most of them were places where God realm cultivators wandered. Although there were some good things, they were not of much value to him. Piercing Cloud Mountain Range, outside Piercing Cloud City, in a large courtyard. This was the home of the Gu clan, an immortal cultivator clan. At this moment, in a large courtyard of the Gu clan, there were countless people squatting down. Most of these people were very young. There were even a lot of 5, 6, 7 or 8 years old children. Although they were crowded together, their spirits and appearances were not bad. Senior brother Zhang Yi, why do you think the Gu clan suddenly gathered so many people here? As far as I know, the Gu clan has gathered almost half of the children who have the aptitude for immortal cultivation in their jurisdiction. In addition, they have also gathered many rogue cultivators. What do they want to do? In the crowd, 2 young cultivators were squatting together and discussing in low voices. As far as I know, this time, it's not only the Gu clan that is taking action. The surrounding Zhang clan, Su clan, and Zhao clan are all involved. These are all immortal cultivator clans with deity realm experts in the vicinity. If they work together, their goal is definitely not small. Zhang Yi shook his head, but a trace of vigilance flashed in his eyes. They were all disciples of the Heavenly Cycle Sword sect, a nearby sect. One was at the early stage of the Aperture Enlightening Realm, and the other was at the late stage of the Aperture Enlightening Realm. Because they had joined the law enforcement team of Piercing Cloud City, they were sent to blend into the crowd as rogue cultivators after discovering the abnormalities of the nearby immortal cultivator clans. Fortunately, the Gu clan's investigation of their identities was not strict at all, so the 2 of them were not exposed. Senior brother Zhang Yi, do you think the demonic cultivators are making a comeback? At this time, the weaker cultivator at the early stage of the Aperture Enlightening Realm asked hesitantly. It shouldn't be. If it were the demonic cultivators, they would not have made such a big fuss. Such an action would not only be taken by our Piercing Cloud City's City Lord Manor. The 9-star Tao Palace would definitely be the first to notice. I heard that the Palace Lord of Piercing Cloud City's 9-star Tao Palace, True Lord Qian Yuan, died in this demonic extermination conference. It is said that the 9-star Tao Palace is far more active in tracking down the demonic cultivators than the other immortal sect. Senior brother Zhang Yi could not help but say. But why did I hear that True Lord Qian Yuan died at the hands of Dark North, who is said to be able to slay immortals. When Wu Hua heard this, he could not help but speak, but was quickly stopped by Zhang Yi. He looked at his junior brother with dignity and said in a low voice, "Be careful with your words." As he spoke, he continued, "This matter is not something we can discuss. But this time, we can be sure that it has nothing to do with the demonic cultivators. Because it is said that the one who initiated this operation is the Kunlun Pavilion, which has a great reputation in Piercing Cloud City." Kunlun Pavilion? Wu Hua was surprised. He had naturally heard of the Kunlun Pavilion. In Piercing Cloud City, there were 2 second-rate immortal cultivator clans. But because of this small shop, they had suffered a great loss. Now, not to mention withdrawing from Piercing Cloud City, their reputation was not as good as before. That's right. Because of this, although many forces have noticed, they did not act blindly without thinking. Although shopkeeper Chiu was in charge of the Kunlun Pavilion on the surface, the power behind her could not help but make everyone afraid. The 4th-grade alchemist Kunlun Taoist, the Golden Core Realm expert True Lord Pushsword, and Taoist Richwater, who was said to have broken through to the Golden Core Realm, had publicly expressed their support for the Kunlun Pavilion. And which one of them was not an important existence in the Qingshu sect? The current Qingshu sect is also extraordinary. It has leaped up and become the leader of the 4 great immortal sects, firmly occupying the position of the number 1 immortal sect in the Piercing Cloud Mountain range. Zhang Ye's tone was full of surprise and envy. Their Heavenly Cycle Sword sect, even at its peak, was only a second-rate immortal cultivation sect. Compared to the Qingshu sect, the difference was too great. Chapter 604. With the Clear Void sect backing the Kunlun Pavilion, even the City Lord's mansion and the 9-star Dao Palace were not willing to offend them. Therefore, even though the Kunlun Pavilion had caused a huge commotion this time, the various forces only investigated in secret. They did not act rashly or with great fanfare. I just don't know why so many people have suddenly gathered at the Kunlun Pavilion. Zhang Yi could not help but frown deeply. Like him, Zhang Yi was not the only one muttering in his heart. Even the organizers of this operation, the Gu clan, the Zhang clan, the Su clan, and the Zhao clan were also muttering in their hearts. Some of the sect's cultivators hidden in the various great clans were also very puzzled. This continued until a warship soared through the air in the distance, quickly approaching. The warship's appearance was very tattered, as if it had gone through countless battles. Some of the cracks looked as if the entire warship was about to be cut in half. However, the space on the warship was very spacious. Not only were there countless figures gathered in the cabin, but there was also a very spacious space on the warship. In particular, there was a Sumeru formation, which made the space even more spacious. At this time, almost everyone on the warship was nervous, excited, and hesitant. Only at the very front of the warship stood a tall figure. Even though he was wearing a magnetic mask, others could still see the calmness in his eyes that came from the bottom of his heart. It was a kind of powerful confidence that would not change even if the sky was shattered. It was Ziyue. After taking care of the 3 demonic cultivators, he went straight to Chuanyun City. It was for the matter of establishing a sect that he had previously envisioned. Long before, he had already used a communication talisman in advance to make arrangements for Qiuyuepiao. The other party's ability to handle matters did not disappoint him. In just a few days, he had created a huge momentum and gathered many disciples who agreed with his request. "Senior, we've arrived at the Gu clan. This is the last batch. There are a total of 7 cultivator clans, and the total number of people gathered has reached 30,000. Among them, there are more than 15,000 children who are 7 or 8 years old. According to your instructions, most of them are alone and have no one to rely on. Otherwise, there would be even more of them. Apart from them, there were also rogue cultivators who had come into contact with immortal cultivation, but they were basically all low-level cultivators. There are only 100 or 200 people in the Aperture Enlightening realm. As for the deity realm, there are only 3. Standing behind Ziyue, Qiu Yuepiao's eyes lit up. Although her tone was respectful, she could not hide the excitement in her heart. Honestly, the news she had just received was too shocking and unbelievable. It wasn't until now that she finally realized Ziyue's true identity. Not only was he one of the only 4th-grade alchemists in the Qingshu sect, he was also a candidate for the next palace master, and he was also close friends with many of the Qingshu sect's Golden Core stage experts. And then there was Adept Darknortha's identity. Now, she had been mingling in the Cloud City for a long time, so she naturally knew of Taoist Master Darknortha's reputation. As a deity realm expert, he had gone against the odds and killed several Golden Core stage experts. Especially in the battle of the True Devil sect, it could be said to be earth-shattering. He had actually snatched the True Devil Cave of the True Devil sect's sect master from the siege of 7 or 8 Golden Core stage experts, and had calmly left under the eyes of many experts. That kind of tyrannical and unparalleled strength could be said to be the strongest deity realm expert in the cloud-piercing mountain range, and even in the entire firmament territory. She had never thought that Ziyue had such an identity, and what shocked her even more was that she could clearly feel that Ziyue was different now. This difference was not the difference in appearance or aura, but the aura on his body, which was completely different from the Taoist connotation of a deity realm cultivator. This also made her completely understand. Senior had broken through again. Directly from the peak of the deity realm, he had directly stepped into the Golden Core stage. Golden Core. She did not know that there was a difference in the quality of the Golden Core stage cultivators. But she knew very well that at the deity realm, Ziyue had the record of going against the odds and snatching food from the tiger's mouth in the hands of countless Golden Core stage experts and calmly retreated. Now, he must be even more powerful. Earth-shattering strength. Oh? There are still deity realm cultivators willing to accept the conscription? Ziyue raised his eyebrows in surprise and said, "Yes, these 3 people, 2 of them are cultivators from the families that were destroyed after the Devil Cultivator's rampage, and then luckily escape. They are Qin Fun and Ding Hao. The other one is a rogue cultivator at the early stage of the deity realm, and the only female cultivator, Ding Shiqin Fairy Ding. When they heard that our Kunlun Pavilion was recruiting people, they directly took the initiative to come. Now they are waiting in the Gu family. Moreover, I told them in advance that they need to leave the cloud-piercing mountain range, and may never be able to return here. Otherwise, more deity realm experts would be willing to join." Qiu Yuepiao nodded and said, "This was also what made her quite proud. Although most of them relied on Ziyue's fame to make the Kunlun Pavilion so attractive. However, the great success of the Kunlun Pavilion auction that she had held alone could not be ignored. This also made her more confident now. Although she was still in the middle stage of the Enlightenment realm, she would not show the slightest fear in the face of deity realm cultivators. She was very calm. "Senior Darknorth, there are some people behind us, should we?" At this moment, a cultivator with a somewhat old face approached and asked respectfully in a low voice. This old man, named Immortal Wenguang, was a high-level deity realm cultivator. He was also a 6-star deity realm cultivator of the 9-star Dao Palace hired by Qiu Yuepiao before Ziyue came. In addition to him, there were 5 other deity realm experts above 3-star. They worshipped and respected by Ziyu Baiming even more than they respected Qiu Yuepiao. Therefore, they always asked for instructions from the other party on everything, and followed the other party's lead. They did not dare to make any decision easily. Especially when they knew that Ziyue had broken through to the Gold Core realm, the reverence in their hearts was even more obvious. Ziyue, at the deity realm, had such a heaven-defying battle record. Now that he had reached the Gold Core realm, how powerful would he be? There was no need to ask. He estimated that the current immortal Baiming was even stronger than Wang Weizhen, the supreme elder of the Qingshu sect, who was known as the #1 person in the cloud-piercing mountain range. With such an expert present, he naturally did not dare to make a decision on his own. Therefore, he felt relaxed, because in his opinion, their mission this time would be very smooth and there would be no accidents. It's okay. Ziyue waved his hand. He knew that those who followed were disciples of various sects and forces who deliberately came to investigate because of the unusual actions of the Kunlun Pavilion. He did not care and did not want to pay too much attention to them. Chapter 605. Soon, the warship landed. One cultivator after another quickly rushed out and began to arrange for everyone to board the warship in an orderly manner. Soon, the Gu family, the higher-ups Qin Fun, Ding Hao, and Ding Shiqin, who were willing to take the initiative to join, appeared in front of Bai Ziyue. Sensing Ziyue's aura, which was obviously different from that of ordinary God Realm cultivators, they were shocked and quickly bowed respectfully. This is perfected cultivator Baiming. He's also the one you're about to serve. Qiu Yuepiao said quickly. Although she already knew Ziyue's true identity, she would not reveal it to outsiders. Greetings, perfected cultivator Baiming. Qin Fun, Ding Hao, Ding Shiqin, and the others were shocked. Naturally, they had heard of perfected cultivator Baiming's name, and their faces showed obvious excitement. They also felt lucky. Originally, they were still a little worried and apprehensive about their rash decision to accept the recruitment of the Kunlun Pavilion. However, at this moment they were completely relieved. With the strength of a God Realm cultivator, he could go against the odds and kill immortals. Now, perfected cultivator Baiming had the strength of a Golden Core Realm cultivator. At least in terms of safety, they were guaranteed. As for the cultivation path and cultivation resources, they also had some expectations. After all, compared to them, perfected cultivator Baiming, who was in the Golden Core realm, casually revealed some of his resources, which were enough for them to win a lot of money. I wonder if perfected cultivator has summoned us because you want to establish a sect and establish a sect? At this moment, Ding Shiqin, who was a rogue cultivator, looked at the rogue cultivators and children who had the aptitude for immortal cultivation, and couldn't help but ask in a low voice. As soon as she said this, Qin Fun, Ding Hao, perfected Wenguang, and even Qiu Yuepiao were shocked and looked at Ziyue in shock. Establishing a sect? They had never thought about this before. But when they thought that Ziyue had the true devil cave, which he had obtained from the true devil sect, their eyes immediately flickered. Because of the huge space inside the cave, if there was a spiritual vein to suppress it, it could naturally be used for cultivators to cultivate. For many high-level cultivators, it was indeed very suitable for establishing a sect. At least for the short term, it was enough. If true monarch Dark North truly wanted to establish a new sect, everyone's breathing quickened at the thought of that. Even Reverend Wenguang and other star-level powerhouses were tempted. Because the meaning behind this was completely different. Establishing a sect is not that simple. It involved many aspects. However, I do have the idea of establishing an immortal force. Ziyue glanced at Reverend Wenguang and the others indifferently and did not hide anything. If he wanted to establish a sect, he needed people. Whether it was the management of the sect or the establishment of the sect rules, someone had to deal with it. As for immortal cultivators who had reached the level of deity, which one of them was not a cultivator with great talent and potential, it would definitely save him a lot of energy, so the more the better. As for the mountain gates, spirit veins, inheritances, and resources that a sect needed, he was not worried. The grade 4 spirit vein in the Kunlun Grotto Heaven was enough for him. It was enough for him to reach the early Golden Core realm. As for the inheritance of cultivation methods and divine abilities, he was even less worried. The reason for that was because his foundation was simply too deep. It was probably not much worse than the Qingshu sect. Not only did he have many cultivation methods that could reach the Golden Core realm, he even had one that could reach the Mid-Essence Soul realm. In the worst-case scenario, he could also use the time to comprehend the Tao to create his own technique. He could always create one or two suitable techniques and divine abilities. On the other hand, in terms of cultivation resources, the Kunlun Grotto heaven was not as vast as the outside world. Therefore, in this aspect, he had to provide for it. However, with his strength and foundation, he was not worried. "Senior brother, what should we do? We're about to step onto the warship. This warship may look shabby, but its size and the array patterns are twice as good as the Grade 3 warship of our Heavenly Cycle Sword sect. It's definitely at the Grade 4 level. Once we step onto the Grade 4 warship, it'll be difficult for us to get off." Among the crowd, Wu Hua looked at Zhang Yi and sent a voice transmission nervously. "You're asking me, but who am I supposed to ask?" Zhang Yi said in a panic. His strength was only at the high level of the Aperture Awakening realm. Looking at the many God realm experts on the warship, he was also nervous and his scalp went numb. "Now we can only take one step at a time. I hope Steward Zhou and the others can arrive as soon as possible," Zhang Yi whispered. Suddenly, a dazzling light flashed in the distance. Then, he saw a group of dozens of cultivators rushing over. He immediately widened his eyes and said excitedly, "Look, isn't the one at the front of our Chuan Yun City Lord, True Monarch Bai? The two beside him, aren't they Vice City Lord Zhuge and Manager Su Jinren?" As expected, it seems that this matter has indeed alarmed the City Lord. The City Lord is a mid-Golden Core realm expert. We're safe. No matter how strong the background of the Kunlun Pavilion is, it's nothing in front of the City Lord. Not to mention, there are so many clan heads of immortal cultivation clans in Chuan Yun City following the City Lord mansion. Wu Hua also said excitedly. The arrival of Perfected Lord Bai and the others naturally attracted the attention of many cultivators on the warship. Perfected Lord Guangyi, the Gu family head, Gu Shaoqing, and the others suddenly looked very nervous and reported to Ziyue in a low voice, "It's the City Lord, Perfected Lord Bai." In addition, the person in charge of the 9-star Dao Palace, Perfected Tai He, is also here. "Steward Qiu, your Kunlun Pavilion has really crossed the line this time. This gathering of disciples with potential in Chuan Yun City with immortal cultivation talent has always been the exclusive right of the City Lord Mansion and the many immortal cultivator families in Chuan Yun City. Steward Qiu, don't you think this is a little too reckless? Could it be that Steward Qiu is so arrogant just because he has the support of the Qingshu sect and thinks we're nothing? Steward Qiu, we hope that you can give us an explanation. Otherwise, don't blame us for being rude." In the distance, voices came from the crowd one after another. With the support of the City Lord, the momentum of this group of people seemed to be very vast. As for Perfected Lord Guangyi, they didn't care about it at all. As for Ziyue, although his aura was a little different and vaguely had the power of the leader of the group, because he didn't deliberately reveal his immortal cultivation strength and because they were far away, they didn't notice much. Only Perfected Lord Bai, although he also didn't notice Ziyue's aura, his heart suddenly skipped a beat when his gaze fell on the other party's magnetic mask. His expression suddenly changed. "I'm not in good condition. I'll try to adjust. The holidays have disrupted my Tao heart." Chapter 606. A Black Robe. Origin Magnetic Mask. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, it would have been difficult to detect the other party's concealment method. Especially in the other party's eyes, the calmness that flashed through. It made him feel extremely strange. Then, he suddenly thought of a person. Spiritual Master Biming. The other party was Spiritual Master Biming? He had personally experienced the battle of the true devil sect. Naturally, he was very clear about the power and terror of Spiritual Master Biming. Even if the other party was only at the peak of the divine realm at that time, the battle strength that he unleashed was almost at the peak of the gold core realm. Even the supreme elder of the Clear Void sect, Wang Weijin, who was known as the #1 person in the cloud-piercing mountain range, said that he did not have much confidence in defeating the other party. One had to know that Wang Weijin had reached the peak of the gold core realm hundreds of years ago. His immortal realm was far inferior to Wang Weijin's. He was only at the middle stage of the gold core realm, so he naturally did not dare to compare with him. Moreover, when his gaze fell on Ziyue at this moment, he faintly felt a sense of trepidation. He immediately became even more awe-inspiring and could not help but reveal a shocked expression. Gold core. The other party had broken through to the gold core realm? Spiritual Master Biming, who was at the peak of the divine realm, had the supreme battle strength to look down on the cloud-piercing mountain range. Now that he had reached the gold core realm, how terrifying would he be? Peak of the gold core realm? King? Or half-step primordial spirit realm? Thinking of this, his expression suddenly changed. He hurriedly bowed and said loudly, "Is it Spiritual Master Biming?" Beside him, the other patriarchs of the immortal cultivation families, who were still cursing, suddenly stopped talking. Their pupils shrank and they all widened their eyes, looking at the black-robed figure in silence. Spiritual Master Biming? He was Spiritual Master Biming? The terrifying existence who had single-handedly suppressed many gold core realm experts on the battlefield of the true devil sect? Thinking of what they had said before, their hearts trembled. This Spiritual Master Biming was a fiend. How could they have a good time after offending such an existence? Immediately after, they all revealed resentful gazes. When they touched Xiao Yuepiao, they also felt some disbelief. When did the Kunlun Pavilion had a connection with such a terrifying existence? If they had known this earlier, they wouldn't have dared to show their faces even if they were given 800 guts. "It's me." Bai Ziyue nodded faintly. He took a step forward and stood in the void. "Fellow Taoist Dark North, may I ask?" City Lord Bai asked in a low voice. "Open the sect. Set up a sect," Ziyue said indifferently. "As expected." City Lord Bai thought to himself, as expected. In fact, when he first guessed Ziyue's identity, he had thought of this point. After all, Grotto Heaven magic treasures were indeed extremely suitable for high-level cultivators to establish their own sections. However, he quickly said, "This is a good thing. With Dao Friend's strength, if you establish a sect, you can directly become a first-rate sect in the piercing cloud mountain range." It was only below the 4 great immortal sects. He believed that there would definitely be countless cultivators seeking refuge. "How about this? Leave this matter to me. Within half a year, I will definitely select a few thousand disciples whose aptitude in immortal arts far surpasses this batch of disciples. Given Adept Dark North's reputation, I'm sure even the geniuses of the top immortal clans would travel thousands of kilometers to see him. There's no need for that. For the time being, this batch is enough." Ziyue raised his eyebrows in surprise. He thought that this time, he would have to make a move. He did not expect true Lord Bai to give in so quickly. However, he did not mind. This time, he was just going with the flow. He still didn't know what the future of this sect would be like. That's really a pity. However, there are many things to do when establishing a sect. In the early days, I also had such an idea. However, in the end, I felt that there were too many checks and balances. In addition, it was inevitable that I would be suppressed by the 4 major immortal sects, so I gave up on this idea. Therefore, I actually admire fellow Taoist Dark North very much. I also believe that in the future, fellow Taoist sect will definitely be famous throughout the world. I just don't know where you plan to set up your sect, fellow Taoist, and what is the name of your sect? True Lord Bai sighed and asked quickly. Wherever I am, my sect will be where it will be. As for the name of the sect, what do you think of the Dark North sect? Ziyue smiled faintly and asked after a thought. The moment he thought about it, the Kunlun mountain range, engraved on the grade 4 spirit vein in the grotto heaven, immediately changed and turned into the words Dark North Mountain Range. He had completely refined the grotto heaven magic treasure. It could be said that it was pure and could be changed at any time. Good name. It's really bold to use fellow Taoist's Taoist name as a name. If it were others, I would only think that they were arrogant and conceited. However, if it's you, fellow Taoist, I only feel convinced. In that case, when I see you in the future, I should change the way I address you as Sect Master Dark North. City Lord Bai praised and then fell silent for a moment before he said, Fellow Taoist, you should also know that I was also an itinerant cultivator in the beginning. I rose from humble beginnings and went through painstaking cultivation to achieve what I have today. Now that I think about it, 2,000 years are about to pass. No matter how unwilling I am, my promotion will probably stop at this realm. Now that I've met Sect Master Dark North, who wants to establish a new sect, I can't help but feel a little excited. I wonder if Sect Master Dark North is willing to accept this old bag of bones and contribute to the Dark North sect that's about to be established? True Lord Bai looked at Ziyue calmly as he spoke. My lord, City Lord Bai? Then what should we do? As soon as the words came out, the group of people in the surroundings turned pale with fright. They did not expect that True Lord Bai, who was now the City Lord of Piercing Cloud City and possessed a mid-stage Golden Core immortal technique, would be willing to condescend and join Ziyue's sect that was not even set in stone yet. Even Qiu Yuepiao, enlightened Master Guangwen, and the others who had been carefully watching the situation on the warship in the distance were shocked. It was just too shocking. A mid-stage Golden Core realm powerhouse in Piercing Cloud Mountain Range had a noble status and a high status. Even the sect masters of the 4 major immortal sects had to treat him with respect and did not dare to underestimate him. In the end, such an existence actually took the initiative to condescend and join Ziyue's sect in just a short time after meeting him. Since when was it so easy to recruit a Golden Core realm powerhouse? It should be known that the 4 major immortal sects had been recruiting him openly and secretly over the years. However, he had rejected all of them. Ziyue's expression was calm, but a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. He asked indifferently, Fellow Taoist, you have to give me a reason, right? Chapter 607. In the void, Ziyue stood in the air, while City Lord Bai and the others were in the distance. The two sides talked in a calm voice, without the hostility that others had expected. On the ground, Zhang Yi and Wu Hua, who were slowly following the crowd onto the warship, were a little dumbfounded. What's going on? Why is the City Lord so respectful to that person? Could it be that that person's status is even higher than the City Lord? Who is he? Most importantly, what should we do? Is the City Lord going to let us be taken away by them? They couldn't hear the conversation in the void, so when they saw what was happening, their faces immediately showed obvious signs of panic. They wanted to open their mouths and reveal their identities to leave, but when they met the eyes of the Divine Realm experts around them, their hearts trembled, and they didn't dare to open their mouths. They didn't have the means like Ziyue to kill immortals, so they were naturally in awe of the experts who were stronger than them. On the other side, after hearing Bai Ziyue's question, True Monarch Bai smiled wryly and said helplessly, Although the 4 major immortal sects in the cloud-piercing mountain range advance and retreat together, the hidden competition is very intense. My cloud-piercing city happens to be in the middle of the 4 major immortal sects and is not under the control of any sect. It seems to be aloof, but in fact, the 4 major immortal sects have not given up spying on this place. As the city lord of cloud-piercing city, I naturally wander among the immortal sects like treading on thin ice. In the past, the immortal sects kept each other in check, so I was quite relaxed. But now the Qingshu sect's spiritual vein has officially been upgraded. Taking this opportunity, the Qingshu sect has also jumped up and become the leader of the 4 major immortal sects. So it's impossible for my cloud-piercing city to be the same as before. I have to make a choice. It's not enough. If it's just for this reason, I can't accept you into my sect. Bai Ziyue shook his head faintly and said. The others looked at Ziyue in shock and disbelief. He refused? A middle-stage gold core realm expert was willing to join. No sect should refuse, even if they didn't welcome him with open arms. But spiritual master Baiming refused. Could it be because of fear? After all, even if Taoist Master Darknorth had broken through to the Golden Core Realm, he was at most at the early stage of the Golden Core Realm. Compared to the Bai City Lord, he was still slightly weaker. There was indeed a reason to be afraid. After all, in the world of immortal arts, it was indeed extremely rare for a sect leader to not be the one with the highest cultivation level in the sect. Even if no one dared to doubt the other party's combat strength. True Lord Bai was also somewhat surprised, but he wasn't angry. He also didn't think that Taoist Darknorth had rejected him out of fear. Even though they had very little contact, he trusted his intuition and knew that the other party was definitely a very magnanimous and proud person. Thus he thought for a moment and continued, I'm not surprised that fellow Taoist can reach the Golden Core stage. Just from the strength you displayed in the previous battle, I know that you are definitely extraordinary. Your future achievements will definitely be unimaginable. The Golden Core stage will not be a hindrance to you. In fact, even the Essence Spirit stage will not be a hindrance to you. A person as talented as you, fellow Taoist, will definitely soar into the sky in the future. Therefore, this is actually an opportunity for me. An opportunity to place a heavy bet in advance before you have completely risen. If I seize it, I may have the possibility of advancing to the late stage of the Golden Core stage, or even the peak of the Golden Core stage. True Lord Bai appeared to be very honest. All right, I agree. Hearing this, Ziyue raised his eyebrows and said. He didn't care if others were spying on his immortal arts and resources. As long as it didn't endanger him, he wouldn't care. Moreover, his Darknorth sect, which was still in his expectations, would definitely develop more smoothly with the addition of a Golden Core stage powerhouse. On the contrary, he was somewhat looking forward to how far this sect, which he had originally treated as a chess piece, would develop in the future. We are also willing to join the Darknorth sect. Sect leader Darknorth, please grant us our wish. Seeing this, Perfected Zhuge and Perfected Su looked at each other and couldn't help but take a step forward and say, We are also willing to join the Darknorth sect. Senior Darknorth, please grant us our wish. When Perfected Guang Wen and the others saw this, they also quickly leaped forward and bowed respectfully. As for the people from the cultivation clans, although they were tempted, when they thought about their families in Chuanyun City, they had no choice but to give up on this tempting idea. Ha ha! Good. With the help of True Lord Bai and the other fellow Taoists, I feel much more at ease. Ziyue was in a good mood. 7 days later. In the void, a battleship sailed across the sky. Behind this battleship, hundreds of battleships lined up horizontally and vertically. These battleships were either loaded with immortal arts materials or carrying many low-level itinerant cultivators and people with immortal arts aptitude. The scene was rather spectacular. The momentum was also very great. This time, due to True Lord Bai's initiative to join the sect, it immediately caused a commotion among the cultivators in Chuanyun City. After some hesitation, many cultivators also rushed to join Ziyue's Darknorth sect, which had yet to take shape. Among them, there were even several cultivation clans that had relocated. Therefore, he, who originally planned to stay in Chuanyun City for only 1 day, had to stay for a few more days. The harvest was great. After some calculations, Ziyue found that there were more than 70,000 people who had decided to join his Dark North sect this time. Among them, 30,000 were the people he had prepared for Qiu Yu's arrival. The rest were itinerant cultivators who came because of true Lord Bai's participation and Ziyue's great reputation as Dark North Immortal. Because of this, the cultivators who joined later were generally stronger than the others. In total, Ziyue's Dark North sect now had 2 experts at the Gold Core realm. They were Ziyue, who had condensed a perfect purple pole golden core at the early stage of the Gold Core realm, and true Lord Bai, who had reached the middle stage of the Gold Core realm with a 6th grade golden core. In addition, there were 33 God realm experts, 1,372 aperture enlightening realm cultivators, and more than 12,000 low-level cultivators with immortal arts cultivation base. Their strength could be said to be profound. In just one leap, they had the powerful strength of a first-class sect in Chuanyun Mountain Range. As for their foundation, it was even more profound. Another thing worth mentioning was that because Ziyue had left this time, it was uncertain when he would come back. Therefore, Qiu Yu Piao was also very determined to move the entire Kunlun pavilion. She just sent a message to her brother, Qiu Dingyue, asking him to take care of those businesses that could not be sold in a short time. With the current foundation of the Kunlun pavilion, it was a huge fortune. Chapter 608. Sect Master, Vice Sect Master. There are a lot of people behind us. There are probably people from the 4 great immortal sects and the various immortal Dao forces in Chuanyun City. What do you think we should do? A cultivator swayed slightly and rushed over from afar, reporting in a low voice. True Lord Bai raised his eyes and said in a low voice, "This time, we have caused a huge commotion. Not only have we recruited a large number of rogue cultivators and disciples with immortal Dao aptitude, we have also gathered a large number of resources. Naturally, it will attract the attention of the surrounding sections. However, with the strength our sect master displayed during the battle with the true devil sect, even if the 4 great immortal sects knew about it, they would not dare to act rashly. They are probably following us to confirm where our North Nether sect is going to settle. If they were in the Chuanyun mountain range, they would definitely be shocked and have to respond. However, if they were to settle outside the Chuanyun mountain range, they would definitely be relieved. So, don't worry about them." As a Golden Core realm expert, perfected Lord Bai had his own might. Now that he was appointed as the Vice Sect Master by Ziyue, he was even more confident and composed. This confidence did not only come from his own strength, but also from Ziyue's supreme reputation as true Lord North Nether. Sect Master Bai is right. However, it is not appropriate to let them follow us. How about this? Give the order for everyone to hover. I will keep all of you in the North Nether Grotto Heaven. For a short period of time, our sect will be located in the Grotto Heaven. Ziyue nodded. As he nodded, the order was quickly passed on to the warships. Then, the hundreds of warships stopped in midair. Then, Ziyue took a step forward and appeared in the void. He stretched out his hand and pointed forward. Chi chi chi, a black bead quickly appeared in front of everyone. Grotto Heaven Dharma Treasure. Everyone's eyes burned with passion. Among the 4 great immortal sects of the Chuanyun mountain range, only the great Buddha sect had a Grotto Heaven Dharma treasure. Now, although their North Nether sect had many things to do, they already had a Grotto Heaven Dharma treasure. With this, they already had the confidence to become a top sect or even a super sect. Open! A low shout. The black bead shook violently and then expanded with the wind. Sizzle, immediately after, a huge hole appeared in front of everyone. They could vaguely see the chirping of birds and the fragrance of flowers in the hollow. A faint but obvious ripple of space was spreading in all directions. "Go in!" Ziyue bellowed. His Grade 4 battleship was the first to rush out, rapidly entering the huge hole. Then, with a thought, True Monarch Bai's Rank 4 warship also rushed into the heavenly abode. Then, there were the Grade 3 warships. Hundreds of warships spread out in a row and poured into the city. A few minutes later, the world was empty. Only then did Bai Ziyue put away the hole with a slight tap. Then, he glanced indifferently at the cultivators following him in the distance, and his figure disappeared completely. Under the perfect shadow domain, not to mention those cultivators who were at most in the God realm, even Golden Core realm experts would not be able to detect it. Is that a heavenly abode treasure? It's really amazing. But we lost them. What should we do next? Lost them? Isn't that normal? Whether it's True Monarch Bai or True Monarch Dark North, they're not people we can spy on. It's already good enough that they didn't attack us. Now we can only hope that the Dark North sect founded by True Monarch Dark North won't appear in the cloud-piercing mountain range. Otherwise, it won't be long before the cloud-piercing mountain range has another top immortal sect and become one of the 5 major immortal sects. Hiss. Do you think so highly of the Dark North sect? Think about it. True Monarch Dark North had the strength to fight immortals and look down on Golden Core realm experts when he was at the peak of the God realm. Now that he's broken through to the Golden Core realm, his strength will definitely soar again. The lifespan of a Golden Core realm expert is at least 2,000 years. As long as True Monarch Dark North is in charge of the Dark North sect, they'll be safe for at least 2,000 years. Such a long time is enough for them to develop and become a top sect comparable to the 4 major immortal sects. After a full 15 minutes, the group of cultivators who followed them finally dared to come closer. They looked at the empty surroundings and began to talk among themselves. They were well aware of True Monarch Dark North's strength. Therefore, they were very optimistic about the sect he was about to establish. If they didn't belong to the 4 major immortal sects or other immortal sects, they would have agreed to the Dark North sect's recruitment in the cloud-piercing mountain range. In fact, among the 70,000 people, there were many cultivators who belonged to other celestial sects who had joined them. Some of them instinctively wanted to follow the strong. Some of them were secretly sent by other immortal sects, including the disciples of the 4 major immortal sects. Ziyue was well aware of this. However, he didn't care. For the time being, he wouldn't let the sect's disciples walk out of the Dark North Grotto heaven. In other words, even if some of them had ulterior motives, he didn't doubt that they could pose a threat to him. Most importantly, the Dark North sect he established wouldn't be related to any of the sects in the cloud-piercing mountain range in the future. Therefore, he didn't have to worry about the disciples betraying him. Another thing worth mentioning was that with his methods and many wonderful techniques, he was confident that he could make the disciples of other sects completely submit to him. Is this the sect we're going to settle in next? The beginner grade 4 spirit vein is much better than I expected. At least before the disciples break through to the Golden Core realm, they don't have to worry about the lack of spirit energy in the spirit vein. Inside the Dark North Grotto heaven, True Monarch Bai looked at the huge spirit vein in front of him and said with joy in his eyes, "It's enough for the time being." The others also nodded in agreement. They were all instinctively confident in Ziyue. However, although the grotto heaven was good, it still needed a spirit vein to nourish everything and allow cultivators to cultivate inside. It was fine to sit in a top-grade spirit vein. It could coexist with the spirit vein outside, and they didn't have to worry about the lack of spirit energy. For example, in the True Devil sect, the True Devil Grotto Heaven coexisted with the beginner grade 5 spirit vein. The spirit energy was abundant and naturally, the demonic aura inside was shockingly rich. However, now that Ziyue was wandering and didn't have the coexistence of a top-grade spirit vein, the spirit vein in the Grotto Heaven was especially crucial. Although the beginner grade 4 spirit vein was a little difficult for True Monarch Bai, who was at the mid-stage golden core realm. It was enough to supply other cultivators. Chapter 609. For the time being, I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Next, I'll look for resources as soon as possible to raise the grade of the spirit vein. At this moment, the void lit up slightly and Bai Ziue's figure appeared in the cave. Sect Leader. Greetings, Sect Leader. Greetings, North Nether Sect Leader. When they saw Ziue, everyone, including perfected Lord Bai, bowed respectfully. Even though the sect had just been established, Ziue's position had been established long ago. Ziue nodded slightly and continued, the most important thing for a sect is its inheritance. Next, I'll set up a place of inheritance. Any cultivator in the North Nether sect can enter the place of inheritance based on their strength and choose a cultivation method or divine ability. As Ziue spoke, he stretched out his hand and pointed forward. Rumble! In an instant, a mountain in the center of the spirit vein began to move violently. The mountain was uprooted and from the bottom to the top, a total of 3 stone steps appeared. Each of the 3 stone steps only had 100 stone steps. However, they were very long and slanted slightly from the bottom to the top. The 100 stone steps spanned a height of about 10,000 meters. On each of the stone steps, Ziue erected stone tablet. These stone tablets were refined by Ziue and all of them had the characteristics of the jade scroll eyes. In addition to the introduction on the surface of the stone tablets, there were also many inheritances recorded in them. Among these inheritances, there were martial skills, internal and external cultivation methods that he had collected in his early days of cultivation. Naturally, there were also divine abilities and great divine abilities in the early stages of cultivation. Then, he waved his hand again. Heaven and earth trembled and the void sank. Immediately, a special force was added to each of the stone steps. This is the stone steps of inheritance. It was specially set up by me and corresponds to the 3 levels of Qi refinement, aperture awakening, and God realm. The more potential and perseverance one has, the more likely they are to receive high-quality inheritances. For example, in the world of the refinement stage, on the last stone step, there is the inheritance of the Dark North Qi training technique that I created, which can lay a supreme foundation. Practicing the Northern Darkness Qi refining technique step by step until the peak of the 9th level of the Qi refining stage, then even if the disciple did not use the enlightenment pill or the bottleneck breaking pill, there would still be a 50% chance of breaking through to the enlightenment stage. If they cultivated the Northern Darkness Qi refining technique to the 10th level, their chances of breaking through would immediately reach 70%. If they cultivated to the 11th level, their chances of breaking through would reach 90%. If someone cultivated this technique and broke through to the 12th level, then not only would they be able to establish a supreme foundation, but they would also have a 100% chance of breaking through to the awakening realm. The 12th level was also the completion of this cultivation technique. Disciples who are able to accomplish this will also be qualified to become my personal disciple and be personally taught by me. Ziue looked at Taoist Bai and the others and said calmly, this Dark North Qi refining technique was naturally a technique that he had created previously. With his current strength and foundation, it was not difficult for him to create the world's top Qi refining level technique. In contrast, there were many other cultivation methods of the same realm that were much weaker than those of the same realm. However, with Bai Ziue's means, even if it was a much weaker cultivation method, it was still much more powerful than the cultivation methods practiced by the rogue cultivators outside. 100 stone steps meant a total of 100 inheritances. The cultivation methods and magic techniques that could land on the inheritance stone steel were no small matter. Northern Darkness Qi refining technique? The 12th level of the Qi refining stage? After cultivating to the 12th level, Not only can one break through to the awakening stage without any obstacles and danger, but one can also directly become the sect master's personal disciple? When these words came out, everyone was stunned. Then they all regretted that they had not encountered such an opportunity in the past. Only a skill like this could be considered to be truly top-notch. It was a supreme inheritance. What about the awakening stage? At this time, Chiu Yuepiao could not help but ask. The awakening stage naturally has a corresponding stone step inheritance. On the top level, I also left my inheritance, Yuan Great Tao Method. The inheritance of the God realm is the same. On the top is the sky-devouring divine transformation technique, which can be used to refine a first-grade golden core. Whether you have the opportunity to obtain the inheritance depends on you, Ziyue said with a faint smile. As soon as these words came out, everyone's eyes turned red. They were extremely excited. Many disciples could not wait to rush up the 3 stone steps of the inheritance. But soon they suffered a lot, because they found that there was a huge oppressive force on the stone steps of the inheritance. This kind of oppressive power not only affected their physical bodies, but it was also a kind of torture to their mind. The further they went, the greater the pressure, and the more the torture, the more tyrannical it was. And most importantly, this kind of oppression and torture did not seem to change at all because of the realm of the cultivator's immortal method. Some people with a higher realm of immortal method were not as fast as those with a lower realm of immortal method. All of this was naturally Ziyue's means. The northern darkness grotto heaven was completely under the control of Ziyue. Naturally, he could easily change the environment, landform, and rules of heaven and earth here. In the grotto heaven magic treasure, even if he was not a god, he could still suppress the cultivators who were far stronger than him. Not to mention what he could do to the experts of the primordial soul realm. If it was an expert of the middle stage golden core realm like Lord Bai, he could at least suppress his strength to less than 50% of his peak. Naturally, he could set up targeted tests for each low-level cultivator. What he tested was not only their aptitude for immortal method, but also their potential in many aspects such as their temperament, comprehension, perseverance, and so on. Disciples who could reach the 50th step and above would certainly have great potential and future achievements. Those who could reach the 70th step and above could be regarded as geniuses. As for disciples who reached the end, their potential, talent, and comprehension would not be weaker than that of Lord Push Sword of the Qingshu sect. Disciples with such aptitude and talent were naturally qualified to obtain his inheritance and cultivate the Northern Darkness Qi cultivation technique. Of course, even if they cultivated the Northern Darkness Qi cultivation technique, it was unknown whether they could cultivate the One Yuan Great Tao technique and the Heaven-Swallowing Divine Transformation technique. Because in Ziyue's estimation, only those who cultivated the Northern Darkness Qi cultivation technique to the 10th level and above could reach the end of the second stone step and obtain the One Yuan Great Tao technique. And only disciples who ignited more than 1,200 acupoints were qualified to obtain the Heaven-Swallowing Divine Transformation technique. With all these factors, every step was difficult. It was not that simple. While the disciples couldn't wait to test the inheritance stone steps, perfected Lord Bai was even more shocked. He couldn't help but ask, "The great Tao of One Yuan is named after One Yuan. Is it a perfect cultivation technique that includes 1,296 acupoints? And the Heaven-Swallowing Divine Transformation technique can form a first-grade golden core. Does it mean that the golden core you condensed this time is a first-grade golden core among the top 3 golden cores in the world?" He widened his eyes and looked at Ziyue in disbelief. 1,296 acupoints. One could reach the deity realm, one could form the first grade of the 3 upper grades of gold core, and one could reach the gold core realm. All in all, one could definitely be called a peerless genius. In his opinion, not to mention the cloud-piercing mountain range, Even in the Gusha mountain range, the firmament territory, or even the entire astral boundary, there were only a few who could do this. Especially perfecting the 1 yuan acupoints, this was not something that could be done just by talent. It also required endless resources and decades of continuous sacrificial refining and igniting acupoints. Without great perseverance, it was extremely difficult to achieve. In this regard, Ziyue just smiled and did not say anything. But seeing this, Lord Bai was even more convinced. He suddenly understood. I see. No wonder the sect master could defeat the immortals when he was at the peak of the divine realm. With the Northern Darkness Qi cultivation technique to build the foundation and the 1 yuan Great Tao technique to ignite the acupoints, the sect master's foundation was so deep that he could almost look down on the world. He was definitely not weaker than those super geniuses of the super sections. Now that he has formed a golden core, it is a rare first-grade golden core in the world. The possibility of him forming the primordial soul in the future is even greater. His thoughts drifted. While he was excited, he was also glad. He was glad that he was decisive enough to give up the identity of the city governor of Chuanyun City and chose to join the North Nether sect as the deputy sect master. Now it seemed that this decision was really correct. This was because he believed that under the leadership of the sect master, with so many super inheritances, the rise of the North Nether sect was simply unstoppable, and he would also soar along with the rise of the North Nether sect. Chapter 610. I didn't expect that a casual move would attract so many experts to follow me. It seems that the speed of development of this sect will far exceed my imagination. Ziyue's figure flashed and rushed out of the grotto heaven again. Then, he took out the warship and continued to travel on the warship. He was a little surprised by the layout of the sect this time. He also didn't expect that there would be Golden Core experts joining him. However, this was ultimately a good thing for him. It might be able to give him some help in the future. I'll leave the matters of the sect to perfected Lord Bai and the others. They should be able to handle it well. The resources purchased from Chuanyun City this time are enough for these disciples to develop for several years. Next, it's time for me to consider my own matters. Bai Ziyue calmed down a little, and his thoughts quickly turned to himself. There was only one thing in front of him now. That was the cultivation technique of the Golden Core realm. Without a cultivation technique, no matter how strong he was, no matter how many resources he had, he would be like a housewife without rice. It would be difficult for his strength to improve. Therefore, a cultivation technique was the first thing he had to solve. Now, I have two ways to create a cultivation technique of the Golden Core realm. One is to use the power of enlightenment from the enlightenment time. With that unique ability of enlightenment, I can create a cultivation technique of the Golden Core realm that is suitable for me. The previous heaven-devouring divine transformation technique was created with the help of the enlightenment time. The other is to head to the Star Source Divine Mountain and use the legendary treasure, the Book of the Great Tao. The Book of the Great Tao seems to be naturally compatible with the Great Tao and can deduce supreme cultivation technique. Previously, there were experts who used the Book of the Great Tao to create top cultivation techniques and unpredictable Tao technique. I can also use it to create a cultivation technique that is compatible with the First Yuan Great Tao technique, the heaven-devouring divine transformation technique. Ziyue thought silently. Both methods were very feasible. One, as long as there was enough soul energy, it would be completed sooner or later. The other, on the fourth level of the Star Source Divine Mountain, had a certain degree of danger. Logically speaking, it was naturally safer to use the enlightenment time. However, using Tao comprehension time was actually a kind of integration of his many accumulations. It was a kind of new understanding of his own comprehension. It required the cultivator to have a strong foundation and a certain level of understanding of the realm to be able to create it. For example, if I didn't have those tens of thousands of divine realm martial skills as a reference, I wouldn't have been able to successfully create the heaven-devouring divine transformation technique. There was no other reason other than the lack of foundation. It was the same for cultivation techniques at the Golden Core realm. Although I have mastered some cultivation techniques at the Golden Core realm, with a few of them even leading to the Essence Soul realm, I still have some cultivation techniques at the Golden Core realm. But in terms of foundation and understanding of the Golden Core realm, I'm not even as good as those in the middle or late stage of the Golden Core realm. Naturally, it would be difficult to create a corresponding cultivation method. Ziyue knew the wonders of Tao comprehension time, but he also understood the difficulty of Golden Core realm cultivation technique. This was a process that could only be accomplished through continuous accumulation. Therefore, I need to constantly collect Golden Core realm cultivation techniques and use the time spent comprehending the Tao to create new technique. I also need to make preparations to head to the Astral Origin Divine Mountain and enter the 4th level. Ziyue sorted out his thoughts and prepared for both sides. Soon, his expression became determined. Then, his gaze fell on the attribute panel. My spiritual energy is still sufficient. Now, I have more than 320 million spiritual energy. Among them, there was the increase in soul energy from killing the 3 late Golden Core realm and the peak Golden Core realm demon monarch. There was also the increase in soul energy from the increase in his attribute panel during this period of time. This is normal. Ziyue looked at the amount of spiritual energy. After a brief calculation, he felt a little relieved. As long as he had sufficient spiritual energy, he would be very confident. Spiritual energy was the reason why he dared to venture into the Astral Origin Divine Mountain. Otherwise, no matter how strong he was, as long as he didn't reach the Essence Soul realm, he would be more cautious in the famous Forbidden Land of the Firmament territory. Besides, among the many great superpowers, only the Heaven and Earth sleeve has not been initiated. Not initiated, 74%. If I cultivate with all my strength, I should be able to truly initiate in a few days. Then, Ziyue's gaze fell on the great superpowers. He naturally attached great importance to the Heaven and Earth sleeve great superpower. Not only was it powerful, but it was also a peerless great superpower that could be used to refine hollow magic treasures. It was extremely magical. Previously, although he had been busy with the sex affairs, he hadn't delayed the cultivation of this great superpower. His progress was gratifying. Therefore, Ziyue no longer hesitated. With a flip of his hand, a Sumeru stone appeared in his hand. The acupoints in his body shook slightly. With a wave of his hand, his long sleeves fluttered slightly. The cultivation method of the Heaven and Earth sleeve great superpower was activated. The special energy in the Sumeru stone was quickly consumed as he activated it. It was swallowed by him to replenish his great superpower. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths, soon, the energy in the Sumeru stone was completely consumed. It turned into ashes and scattered in the void. Then, he flipped his hand again. Another Sumeru stone appeared in his hand. Just like that, the cycle repeated itself. The cultivation progress of the Heaven and Earth sleeve great superpower also gradually increased. 75%, 76%, 77%, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Suddenly, Ziyue stopped cultivating. His gaze fell into the distance. In the distance, heavy snow drifted. Endless wind and frost sprinkled the Heaven and Earth. In a daze, the entire Heaven and Earth was dyed in a snow-white color. In the void, the cold wind whistled. The bone-chilling cold fell on the slightly exposed trees. The frozen leaves turned yellow and their vitality was cut off. This should be the border between the cloud-piercing mountain range and the Gusha mountain range. It's a snowy mountain forest. After crossing the snowy mountain forest, we will reach the boundary of the Gusha mountain range. Ziyue looked at the mountain forest. Then, He turned around and looked in the direction of the cloud-piercing mountain range. A complicated look flashed across his eyes. In the end, he was just a passer-by in the cloud-piercing mountain range. Although he didn't lack friends here, in order to seek the great Tao, he could only give them up for the time being. For immortal spell cultivators, they could only walk the great Tao alone. Without hesitation, Ziyue continued to drive the warship across the sky and flew towards the snowy mountain forest. This snowy mountain forest was actually a dangerous place for many of the weaker cultivators. In the center of the mountain forest, there was a golden core realm beast king entrenched. It was very tyrannical. If ordinary cultivators wanted to cross, they had to be extremely careful. They had to do their best to not attract the appearance of powerful demonic beasts. However, Ziyue didn't care about this. The warship crossed the mountain forest without evading. The wind and snow fell on the warship. It seemed to be blocked by a layer of special power and scattered to the sides. Chapter 6:11. Roar! Roar! As the warship crossed, the roars of demonic beasts could be heard from time to time. They looked up at the warship and roared angrily. There was no lack of flying demonic beasts that soared into the sky and charged at the warship. Ziyue looked at them calmly. Although the warship's defense was weak, it was not something that a group of low-level demonic beasts could shake. Even if there were some powerful demonic beasts, they would be stunned when Ziyue revealed his aura and flee in a hurry. The stronger they were, the more intelligent they were. Naturally, they could sense the other party's strength. Ziyue did not care too much about these low-level demonic beasts. Sometimes, when he felt annoyed, he would just slap them and crush them to death. If they were lucky enough to escape, he would not deliberately chase after them. When he was in the mood, he would even use the heaven and earth in his sleeve to seal them. Groups of demonic beasts were at most in the aperture awakening realm. Even if he had not learned the basics of the universe in the sleeve, he could still seal them easily. Then, he took the opportunity to store them in the northern underworld grotto heaven. Other than the spirit vein, the other places in the grotto heaven were still very spacious. He naturally had to store some to enrich the life in the grotto heaven. Although these demonic beasts were dangerous, they could also be used as training for the sect's disciples. Frequent threats were also very beneficial to the disciples' growth. The snowy mountain forest was very big, but the fourth-grade warship was even faster. During this time, they did not encounter any golden core beast kings. Ziyue's warship quickly crossed over and officially stepped into the Gusha mountain range. Have you heard? The Firmament Territory's super sect, the Heavenly Spirit sect's sovereign peak, disciples have appeared. They are going to challenge the other sects and recruit experts. Those who are not in the Golden Core realm are not even qualified to join. According to what I know, Sky Mist sects Gao Feng and Wu Yu, two Golden Core experts, Valley God sects Zhang Daohua, and Huayuan sects Ice Dust Fairy, have all publicly expressed their willingness to go. There's also the cloud-piercing mountain range. It is said that each of the four major immortal sects has sent Golden Core realm experts over the mountain range. There are a total of 6 Golden Core realm experts. Even if they are all at the initial stage of the Golden Core realm, they are still a powerful force. Doesn't that mean that at least 10 Golden Core realm experts have gathered together to explore the stellar origin Divine Mountain? Come to think of it, the reward for participating this time is a Tao technique. Even if he could only cultivate by himself, there were only a few Tao techniques in Sky Mist sect. They could be said to be extremely precious. Naturally, there is no lack of experts willing to take the risk. However, this Star Origin Sacred Mountain is not a good place either. The expert from the Celestial Spirit sect who initiated the recruitment was said to be the Jiu Sword King, who was powerful enough to be crowned as a king in the Golden Core realm. Even he was so cautious, gathering so many experts before daring to take action. It was definitely extremely dangerous. This time, it's hard to say how many people will be able to return safely. Gusha Mountain Range, in an immortal city. All sorts of discussions about the Gusha Mountain Range could be heard. During this period of time, the most lively thing in the entire Gusha Mountain Range was that the eldest senior brother of the heavenly spirit sects Palm Peak, the Golden Core Monarch Ju Sword Monarch, Zhang Dongxing, was recruiting experts to travel to the Star Source Sacred Mountain. The Golden Core Realm experts who had accepted the recruitment were enough to cause a heated discussion. Zeus sat in a restaurant. In just a short period of time, he had learned a lot about this matter. There are indeed experts in the cloud-piercing mountain range who have accepted the recruitment, and there are 6 of them. Among them, there were a total of 2 Golden Core Realm experts in the Clear Void sect who accepted the recruitment. One was True Lord Pushsword, and the other was True Lord Ling Coffin of the Field Hall. True Lord Pushsword was a 2nd-grade Golden Core among the top 3 grades. He was a genius cultivator who had a chance to reach the primordial soul realm. He was full of pride and naturally would not let go of the opportunity to obtain the Tao Technique inheritance. As for True Lord Ling Coffin, he was actually a younger Golden Core Realm expert in the Clear Void sect. Although he was seriously injured in the battle at the True Devil sect, his injuries had already recovered under the auspicious signs. Now, it seemed that he was also tempted by this Tao Technique. Of course, there was also the thought of protecting True Lord Pushsword. After all, to the Clear Void sect, his safety was too important and related to the future development of the Clear Void sect. As for True Lord Fu Shui, True Lord Great Sun, and the others, they had probably just broken through to the Golden Core realm and had not had time to stabilize their realm. Therefore, they could only give up this opportunity. In addition, the Tai Yi Sword sect, the Sound of Thunder sect, and the Great Buddha sect each sent 1 or 2 Golden Core Realm experts. And from their discussion, it was not difficult to judge that they had already arrived at the Gusha Mountain Range half a month ago. Now, each of them has a certain level of fame in this place. Zue pondered for a moment, his eyes revealing a thoughtful look. He was not too surprised by this. He was even more aware of the preciousness of Tao techniques. In the Gusha Mountain Range, the number and strength of the Golden Core Realm experts are obviously much stronger than in the cloud-piercing mountain range. Not only are there many experts in the middle and late Golden Core Realm, but there is also a Golden Core King-level expert. This King-level expert is called Li Mengxian, a rare female King-level expert, known as the Dream Immortal King. Her battle strength is unparalleled, and she is exceptionally beautiful. She is the dream lover of countless cultivators. Suddenly, Ziyue's expression changed when he heard about a king-level expert. He could not help but feel surprised. There were very few king-level experts in the entire Firmament territory. It was not too strange that there was one in the Gusha Mountain Range. However, this king-level expert was a woman, which made her seem tyrannical. This was because women were always known for their battle strength. Li Mengxian was able to become a king-level expert with an unparalleled battle record, which naturally made her commendable. Most importantly, she was exceptionally beautiful. In the early days, she was known as the first fairy in the Gusha Mountain Range, attracting the true disciples of various celestial sects and holy sons to follow her. She was definitely an influential figure. In terms of reputation, she was even more famous than Ziyue's Baimingzhenren in the cloud-piercing mountain range. It's a pity that the Dream Immortal King did not plan to go to the Star Source Holy Mountain. Otherwise, it would be really interesting this time. The Dream Immortal King is a king-level expert like the Ju Sword King. Although she comes from the Immortal Cloud sect, which is slightly weaker than the Sky Mist sect, and does not have an primordial spirit realm expert, she also has a Tao technique inheritance. Naturally, I won't lower myself to someone else's level for a mere Tao technique. Actually, what you said is still not the point. Who doesn't want a Tao technique inheritance? I guess the Dream Immortal King, who has already become a king-level expert, is no exception. However, in the immortal spell world, there has always been a saying that kings do not meet kings. Once two kings meet, there will be a fight. Whether the Dream Immortal King wins or loses, it will not be a good thing. After all, the Ju Sword King came from the Super Celestial Spirit sect. The Immortal Cloud sect of the Dream Immortal King does not have an primordial spirit realm expert. Chapter 6:12. There's such a thing? But what kind of person is the Dream Immortal King? Would she care about this? I remember that other than fighting for her brother Li Mengchen a few times, she didn't make a big fuss over anything else. Moreover, if it was just a normal battle, the Heavenly Spirit sect wouldn't be so shameless as to attack the Dream Immortal King and the Immortal Cloud sect. Who knows? But the Dream Immortal King does take good care of her brother. The group of people talked about Dream Immortal King's brother. Bai Ziyu listened for a while and decided that it was nothing more than some ridiculous things about him. He didn't pay much attention to it. He stood up, threw some spiritual stones, and walked out. He was currently in an immortal city controlled by the Sky Mist sect in the Gusha mountain range. There were all kinds of immortal techniques and materials, and there were many cultivators coming and going. Apart from purchasing some materials needed for the Grotto Heaven, Bai Ziyu also wanted to see if there were any suitable Golden Core realm cultivation techniques for sale. Half an hour later, Ziyu appeared in a spacious hall. This was the 9-star Dao Palace branch in the Gusha mountain range. The 9-star Dao Palace's forces were spread across several realms in the star boundary. As the Gusha mountain range was close to the star source Divine Mountain, there were two branches. One was the Sky Mist Immortal City, and the other was the Star Source Immortal City near the Star Source Divine Mountain. When he stepped in, he could clearly sense that there were more Divine Realm experts here than in the cloud-piercing mountain range. Although the cultivators were in a hurry, their auras were strong. Ziyu came to a counter and took out the star token from the Grotto Heaven. He hung it on his body and asked the cultivator working inside in a low voice, "What treasures can I exchange here?" Star-grade experts could exchange for treasures in the 9-star Dao Palace. Bai Ziyu already had a deity token of 9 stars. Later, after Immortal Qian Yuan helped him, the deity token was upgraded by 1 level. Although it appeared to be a 9-star token, it was actually a 10-star token. Therefore, it could be exchanged for more precious treasures. Of course, after perfected Lord Qian Yuan used the moon token to track him down, he became more vigilant. He was more vigilant about the god token. Therefore, they would normally place them in their heavenly abode treasures and use the heavenly abode space to isolate them. He would only take it out when he needed it. 9 stars? Senior, this way please. When the cultivator in charge saw this, he was shocked and his expression became much more respectful. Although he didn't realize that Ziyu was already an expert of the Gold Core realm, an expert of the 9 stars deity token was at least at the peak of the deity realm. He, a cultivator of the intermediate deity realm, didn't dare to offend him. He hurriedly beckoned Ziyu into a secret room at the side, then took out a true image book and said in detail, "Senior, this book records all the treasures in the possession of the 9-star Dao Palace in Heavenly Mist City. You can use your star medallion to inquire. Once you find something that you value, you can use spirit stones to exchange for it. Even if there are some treasures that we don't have in Heavenly Mist City, we can transfer them from the nearest star source Sacred Mountain. Within 3 days, the treasures will be delivered to you. If there are treasures that you need that aren't recorded in the true image book, you can also issue a mission through the 9-star Dao Palace and ask people to search for them. Missions with less than 10,000 upper spirit stones will only affect the Gusha mountain range. Therefore, only star-grade experts of the 2 branches in Heavenly Mist City and Star Source Immortal City can accept them. If it's a mission with more than 100,000 upper spirit stones, the impact will be much greater. You can choose to directly mobilize all the Stargrade experts in the firmament territory to participate. Once you spend 1,000,000 upper spirit stones, the impact will include the 3 realms of the firmament territory. Even Gold Core realm experts may take action. The chances of obtaining treasures will greatly increase. Ziyue raised his eyebrows. His understanding of the 9-star Dao Palace had deepened. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. No wonder the 9-star Dao Palace was able to develop and expand. Even the super sects would find it difficult to achieve such convenience. Although the cost was huge, for many forces, problems that could be solved with spirit stones were really not a problem. Then, he stretched out his hand and the 10-star divine token that belonged to him moved slightly and connected with the true image book. Soon, a large amount of information regarding treasures flashed before his eyes. Warship, cultivation methods, great abilities, magic treasures, talismans, spirit pills, pill recipes, natural treasures. Ziyue's gaze swept across the dazzling array of treasures. Moreover, the images were clear and exquisite, making him feel envious when he saw them. Especially with his 10-star divine token, the number and grade of the treasures that he could see were all very precious and numerous. Naturally, this made him even more eager to take action. However, when he saw the value of many treasures, a trace of clarity flashed across his eyes. Although the treasures were good, they were definitely not cheap. He was now rich and did not lack spirit stones. He had as many as 8,000,000 upper-grade spirit stones. However, at least half of them would be used as the foundation of the spirit veins in the grotto heaven to maintain the operation of the spirit veins. However, his own cultivation would require a lot of spirit stones in the future. For the time being, I can only take out 2,000,000 upper-grade spirit stones for consumption. Ziyue made up his mind and flipped through the list. Soon, he made his choice. Golden Core level cultivation methods, Golden Cauldron True Technique, Great Dao Song Technique, no need for true explanation. 100 drops of Primordial Spirit True Liquid, Natural Treasures, 32 Divine Fruits, 7 Scarlet Blood Divine Flowers. In terms of materials, 3,000 kilograms of True Crystal Stone, 50,000 kilograms of Scarlet Refining Divine Stone, 50,000 kilograms of Iron Core Stone. Without hesitation, Ziyue made a large purchase. Among them, there were 5 Golden Core Realm cultivation techniques, dozens of heavenly and earthly treasures, and millions of kilograms of precious materials. The only thing that made him a little regretful was that there were no Dao technique inheritances. As for some great abilities, they were not of much use to him at this time. Therefore, he did not think too much about it. The cultivator who was waiting on him was dumbfounded. He did not expect that the young cultivator in front of him, who did not even reveal much of his aura, would be so bold and unrestrained. How could a single purchase be so fierce? With so many treasures, all of them would cost at least 2,000,000 upper-grade spiritual stones, which would be more than 20 billion lower-grade spiritual stones. It was enough to issue 2 large-scale missions that affected the 3 realms. In the end, Ziyue spent all of it with a wave of his pen? Is there a problem? Seeing that the cultivator was stunned, Ziyue asked softly. No problem. The cultivator was stunned and hurriedly answered, but his gaze towards Ziyue became even more respectful. Chapter 6:13. After thinking for a while, he continued to say, Senior, you have chosen so many cultivation techniques. Senior, you can only read these cultivation techniques, and you can't impart them to others. Therefore, I suggest that you only choose one cultivation technique that is suitable for you. For example, the True Golden Cauldron Technique is the most powerful cultivation technique of the Golden Cauldron sect. The Golden Cauldron sect has always been famous for its defense. Therefore, when you cultivate this cultivation technique, your physical body will be much stronger than cultivators of the same level. This cultivation method can be used by cultivators from the Qi refining stage to the gold core stage. In the aperture opening stage, the number of acupoints that can be ignited is up to 1008. Therefore, if one cultivates this cultivation method to perfection, when he breaks through from the God realm to the gold core stage, he will have a chance to form a third-grade gold core. Another thing worth mentioning is that when you cultivate to the golden core realm, the cultivation technique will automatically form a golden cauldron spiritual shield. It has a certain defensive effect on the cultivator's golden core. As for the great Tao song art, it is a cultivation technique that uses sound to harmonize with the great Tao of heaven and earth. It can greatly enhance the cultivator's soul. When the song art is played, the soul will resonate with heaven and earth. When heaven and earth become one, the power of the soul will increase greatly. Also, there is no need to explain. The cultivator seemed to be very familiar with these cultivation techniques. After a clear explanation, he quickly analyzed the pros and cons of these cultivation techniques. I see. Ziyue nodded his head. Although he could vaguely see the characteristics of these cultivation techniques from the introduction, it was not as clear as the cultivator's introduction. However, he still said softly, however, my choice remains the same. I want all 5 cultivation techniques. He didn't choose cultivation techniques for his own cultivation. He wanted to use them as a foundation to prepare for the creation of his own cultivation technique. Therefore, he didn't care too much about them. He was interested in both the true Golden Cauldron technique's Golden Cauldron Protective Spiritual Shield and the Great Tao Song Art's Divine Soul Amplification. It was a good opportunity for him to take a look at them and see if they could be used as resources to add to the cultivation method he was about to create. The cultivator was stunned and his face was filled with shock. Then, he didn't say anything else. He responded respectfully and quickly started to prepare. Not long after, a peak-level deity realm expert arrived together with that cultivator. When he saw Ziyue, he greeted him from afar. I'm Taoist Zongheng from the Sky Mist Immortal City. I pay my respects to fellow Taoists. How should I address you, fellow Taoist? A name is just a code. I just want to know when I can get what I need. Ziyue said with a faint smile. He didn't want to complicate matters. Regardless of whether it was Dark North or Kunlun, once these 2 names were mentioned, it was hard to guarantee that it would cause some unnecessary trouble. Naturally, he didn't want to reveal it. Fellow Taoist, you can come with me to this palace to receive the inheritance of the cultivation method. As for the other materials, we will prepare them for you during this period. We won't waste your time. It's this spirit stone. That Taoist master unhindered didn't mind Ziyue's concealment. Which immortal spell cultivator didn't have a few enemies? It was just that his tone inevitably became a little more cautious. After all, the cultivation method and treasures that Ziyue exchanged this time were very valuable. They were worth more than 2 million high-grade spirit stones. Even if Ziyue's star token was of a very high level and reduced the price, he still needed 2 million high-grade spirit stones. Not to mention a divine realm cultivator, even a gold core realm expert would not be able to take out such a sum. Which one of them wasn't an earth-shattering big shot? The worst of them was the Skymist sect master or a king realm expert like the Dream Immortal King. Of course, you won't be short of spirit stones. Ziyue smiled faintly and waved his hand. Rumble. The void shook as a dull thud was heard from the ground. Then, a pile of spirit stones that looked like a small mountain was suddenly piled up in the hall. This pile was worth 1 million high-grade spirit stones. Then, Ziyue waved his hand again. The ground shook again, and another pile of spirit stones appeared at the side. His spiritual master unhindered's expression changed, and he gasped. It wasn't that he had never seen spirit stones before. As the manager of the 9-star Tao Palace's branch in Skymist Immortal City, he had seen many treasures and spirit stones. But even so, 2 piles of 2 million high-grade spirit stones appeared in front of him. That kind of shock made him feel dizzy. Therefore, he was completely convinced. He guessed Ziyue's identity in his heart, and his expression became even more respectful. He quickly led him to the palace's treasury. These are the inheritance stone tablets of the 5 cultivation methods. On these inheritance stone tablets, there is a blood oath left behind by a primordial spirit realm expert. Once you learn the inheritance, you can't pass it on privately. Otherwise, the blood oath will be activated and your soul will be severely injured even if you have reached the late Golden Core realm. Moreover, it will be difficult for you to break free from the Golden Core realm and reach the primordial spirit realm. Of course, it will only be learning and cultivation. There won't be any impact. Please rest assured. Spiritual Master Unhindered pointed at the 5 inheritance stone tablets and explained. Golden Core realm shackles? Ziyue's gaze landed on the inheritance stone tablets, and he asked doubtfully. You should know that a Golden Core realm cultivator can only break through to the primordial spirit realm after forming a Golden Core of the upper 3 grade. It's not just because the Golden Core is stable and nourishes the soul of a cultivator with immortal cultivation methods, making the soul stronger and able to withstand the baptism of the heavenly tribulation. It's also because when a Golden Core of the upper 3 grades is formed, heaven and earth will imprint it. To some sects without primordial spirit realm experts, these imprints are a good thing because the imprints contain the great Tao of heaven and earth. They can naturally allow one to comprehend Abhijna and Great Abhijna, but this is actually a hindrance from heaven and earth to cultivators. It's a shackle. As such, if a cultivator's primordial spirit wants to break through the Golden Core, it must first break through the imprints of the Great Tao and the shackles of the Golden Core. Only when the shackles are broken can heaven and earth sense it and send down the heavenly tribulation. Only then can the cultivator officially break through to the primordial spirit realm. When a Golden Core of the upper 3 grades is formed, the higher the grade of the Golden Core, the thicker and more numerous the shackles on the Golden Core. When they reach the pinnacle of the Golden Core realm, the difficulty of breaking through will also increase. A Golden Core of the 1st grade can have 9 shackles at most. The difficulty of breaking through these shackles is as high as the heavens. This is also the reason why countless cultivators can only stay at the Golden Core realm despite their extraordinary background and talent. Apart from the baptism of the heavenly tribulation, the difficulty of breaking through to the primordial spirit lies in the fact that the shackles are too thick and too strong. A look of surprise flashed across Spiritual Master Unhindered's eyes. He didn't expect Ziyue to be unaware of this. However, he didn't show it on his face and began to explain softly. Chapter 6:14. The higher the grade of the Golden Core, the more and thicker the Golden Core shackles? Ziyue was taken aback and could not help but feel shocked. He suddenly thought of himself. He had formed the Amethyst Golden Core. 12 great Tao scars. Furthermore, each of the 12 great Tao scars was extremely large and thick, almost enveloping his entire Golden Core. The thin intersections that extended seemed to contain endless wonders and were the manifestation of the great Tao. However, looking at it now, was it not like a giant net that had enveloped his entire Golden Core? That's right. It is said that above the 1st grade Golden Core, there is the legendary Amethyst Golden Core. The strength of those who possess the Amethyst Golden Core is even more terrifying. Usually, when one reaches the peak of the Golden Core realm, they will have the combat power of a regal or even a half-step into the primordial soul realm. However, the Golden Core shackles on their bodies are one more than a 1st grade Golden Core. They have a total of 10 golden core shackles. Furthermore, because the amethyst golden core is one of the most precious treasures in the world, the shackles on the golden core are naturally thicker and more difficult to break. It is said that in the Heavenly Spirit sect, there was once an invincible golden core expert who attained the amethyst golden core. When he released his golden core, the 10 shackles almost enveloped his entire amethyst golden core. However, even when his lifespan of 3,000 years was exhausted, there was no news of him breaking free from the shackles and breaking through to the primordial soul realm. As he spoke, Perfected Being Unhindered sighed. The amethyst golden core had a boundless foundation and unparalleled combat power. However, the difficulty of breaking through from the golden core realm to the primordial soul realm was far greater than any of the 3 superior grade golden cores. Some people were extremely talented and had shocking combat power. However, they could not break free from the shackles and break through to the golden core realm. They could only stop there. How could the strongest golden core compare to the primordial soul realm? At the primordial soul realm, one could live for 9,000 years. They could give up their physical body and live forever. Their combat power was shocking, and they could even travel 90,000 miles in a night. Only then could they be considered to have transcended and be called immortals. Without reaching the primordial soul realm, they would be bound by their physical body. I see. Thank you for enlightening me. Ziyue cupped his hands and thanked him sincerely, but his heart couldn't help but feel heavy. Just as Zhenren Zongheng had said, he was an invincible expert in the Aurus core realm. He was born in a super sect and had attained the violet Aurus core. He definitely did not lack resources and had the help of more than 10 primordial soul realm elders in his sect. However, before his lifespan was exhausted, he was unable to break free from the shackles and break through to the primordial soul realm. One could imagine how difficult it was. Most importantly, breaking free from the shackles was only a hurdle. After breaking free, the soul would rush out of the golden core. Only then would the heavens and earth react and send down lightning and fire. Only when the thunder fire burned the body and was baptized by the thunder tribulation could one form the primordial spirit. In other words, breaking free from the shackles was only the first step to breaking through to the immortal soul stage. However, this step alone had obstructed countless cultivators at the pinnacle of the golden core realm, as well as super experts who had proven their Tao and possessed the strength of the golden core realm. On the other hand, he had also attained the ultimate violet golden core. Furthermore, it was a perfect ultimate violet golden core. Above the golden core, there were even 12 shackles tightly wrapped around it. It's too difficult for me. Ziyue could feel how difficult it was. However, his face soon turned serious and he revealed a look of determination. But so what if it's difficult? Since I can attain the ultimate violet golden core, I can also break free from these shackles and transcend the world. I can roam the heavens and earth with my primordial spirit. I don't believe that these shackles can really bind me for the rest of my life. His lifespan wasn't short. 3,000 years to him was far too long. He didn't believe that these little shackles could stop him. On the other hand, Perfected Being Unhindered didn't know that Ziyue's thoughts had changed so much in such a short period of time. He waved his hand and said politely, "You're too kind, Taoist friend." Then, because Ziyue was about to start receiving the inheritance, he naturally couldn't stay any longer and quickly took his leave. Ziyue watched him leave and closed the door of the secret chamber. Then, he looked at the 5 inheritances. With a sweep of his divine perception, he entered one of the inheritance steels. In an instant, the blood oath mantra was activated. Ziyue recognized that it was a blood oath to prevent others from spreading it. Even though he had come into contact with it when he received the Thunder Escape Light and other inheritances, he instinctively used the All Spirits Immortal Dismemberment technique that he had created back then. The All Spirits Immortal Dismemberment Technique was created by Ziyue specifically to break the special use of O's and blood O's. It was extremely useful at critical moments. In an instant, Ziyue activated his ultimate violet golden core energy, and a special spiritual light silently rushed out and enveloped the blood oath. ZZZ. The power of the blood oath was immediately worn down and weakened. However, the blood oath cast by a primordial spirit realm expert was extremely mysterious and powerful, even if it was only imprinted on the inheritance steels. Soon, the power of the blood oath broke through the defense of the All Spirits Immortal Dismemberment Technique and continued to rush toward him. It works. However, Ziyue's eyes lit up. He had not expected that the technique that he had created back then would really work. When he had first learned the Thunder Escape Light and the God's Physique, it had not worked at all. It had rushed into his body and forced him to swear a blood oath. However, when he thought about the fact that he had already reached the Golden Core stage and had even condensed the Amethyst Golden Core, the purity and richness of his core essence was not the slightest bit inferior to that of an ordinary powerhouse at the peak of the Golden Core stage, his heart was calm. With a different level of power, a technique that had originally been weak would naturally be able to play a huge role. As his thoughts flashed, Ziyue's movements were extremely fast. Soon, he had cast the second All Spirits Immortal Dismemberment Technique. Then, the third, the fourth. He did not stop and activated his ultimate violet golden core energy vigorously. After a total of 5 All Spirits Immortal Dismemberment Techniques had been cast, the blood oath was finally worn down. It's broken. Although I was in a hurry, my casting speed is indeed astonishing. I've finally broken the blood oath. Ziyue heaved a long sigh of relief and his eyes lit up. He knew very well what this meant. In other words, he could freely impart the succession he had received to others without suffering any backlash. This meant that not only could he learn and use it himself, but he could also keep it as the foundation of the sect and place it in the North Nether sect for the disciples to cultivate. If I'm the only one who cultivates this technique, the cost is not too high. However, if I want to impart it as the legacy of the sect, the price will increase by 100 times. Ziyue was secretly excited. Based on this calculation, he had profited from this exchange. Chapter 6:15. With excitement in his heart, Ziyue quickly set his eyes on the second stone tablet of inheritance. Like before, he lifted the blood oath again. Then, the third, the fourth. After lifting the blood oath on the 5 stone tablets of inheritance, he also received 5 cultivation methods that could help him reach the peak of the Golden Core realm. He did not stay in the secret chamber for long. After making sure that he had memorized all 5 cultivation methods, he walked out of the secret chamber and found Spiritual Master Zongheng. "My friend, you finished receiving the inheritance so quickly?" When Spiritual Master Zongheng saw Ziyue, he was slightly stunned and could not help but ask in surprise. It should be known that an ordinary divine realm cultivator would need at least half an hour to receive the inheritance of a great divine ability. As for the cultivation technique, it involved more and more things. Therefore, it would take at least 2 to 4 hours to receive the inheritance. After all, there was only one chance. No one would dare to end the comprehension without any mistake. This time around, Ziyue needed to receive a total of 5 martial skill inheritances. Even if he didn't need an entire day, he would definitely need 6 to 10 hours. In the end, in less than an hour, he had walked out of the cave? That's right. Ziyue nodded slightly and said frankly, "Did you miss anything? This inheritance is precious. If you don't understand anything, you will need to spend more spiritual stones to comprehend it next time." Spiritual Master Zongheng kindly reminded him. "Thank you for reminding me. But I didn't miss anything," Ziyue said calmly. Seeing this, spiritual master Zongheng was even more surprised. He vaguely felt that Ziyue might not be the cultivator at the peak of the divine realm that he originally thought. Could it be that he is a golden core realm cultivator? As he muttered in his heart, he did not dare to be negligent. He quickly called out and handed over all the treasures that Ziyue had ordered previously. Ziyue took the storage pouch and scanned it with his divine sense. He quickly discovered that the various treasures he had ordered before, including the God Fruit, Crimson Blood Divine Flower, True Crystal Stone, Crimson Refinement Divine Stone, and various other materials, were all in full. In particular, the bottle of Primordial Spirit True Fluid, which contained 100 drops, caused him to immediately reveal a satisfied smile. Previously, his celestial spell realm was only at the deity realm, so he couldn't withstand the invasion of the primordial spirit true fluid at all. This was because it was extremely easy for it to be contaminated, thus causing his divine sense to become impure. However, he was also very clear about the value of this primordial spirit true fluid. Back then, when he fought with true Lord Qian Yuan, the other party also used this treasure, and his combat strength immediately increased greatly. If it weren't for the fact that he was much stronger than the other party, things might have been a little tricky for him. This time, since he had decided to enter the Star Origin Sacred Mountain, he knew that it would be filled with danger. Naturally, he had to make preparations in advance. The primordial spirit true fluid was one of his trump cards. If that's the case, many thanks. After confirming that he had not missed anything, Ziyue cupped his hands and left with large strides. I wonder who this person is. He shouldn't be a 9-star divine realm expert from the Gusha mountain range. After all, I know all those experts, especially his deity token. It's a 9-star divine token, but in fact, according to the discount he used to buy these treasures, it should be a 10-star divine token. The 10-star deity token is something that only the official disciples of the 9-star Dao Palace can possess. Cultivators who can be accepted into the Dao Palace are all experts at the peak of the deity realm, and have the potential to reach the golden core realm. Zongheng thought for a while, and guessed that the other party was an expert from the Northern Ridge Mountain Range, Yellow Ridge Mountain Range, and other places. Zongheng, this is bad. I just received news that the Star Medallion has rung. At this moment, a cultivator hurriedly rushed over and cried out in alarm. What? The Star Medallion has rung? Zongheng's expression changed, and he hurriedly asked, when did this happen? The Star Medallion was a special sensing treasure of the 9-star Dao Palace. Generally, those who sensed it were the cultivators of the 9-star Dao Palace who possessed the deity token, which was roughly equivalent to the Moon Medallion of the 9-star Dao Palace. They could use it to roughly detect the location and direction of the surrounding Star Medallion expert. It was just that the sensing range of the Star Medallion was much wider than that of the Moon Medallion. Even if the Star Medallion sensed an ordinary Star Medallion expert, there wouldn't be any special reaction. After all, the 9-star Dao Palace had always kept such matters a secret. But if any Star Medallion expert had done something harmful to the 9-star Dao Palace, once it was recorded in the Star Medallion would definitely sense it and send out a warning if the cultivator came within 1,000 miles of the Star Medallion. This was also one of the 9-star Dao Palace's backup plans. 2 hours ago. The cultivator nervously glanced at Zongheng and replied in a low voice. 2 hours ago? Why are you only telling me now? Zongheng's heart skipped a beat, as if he had thought of something. He suddenly looked in the direction that Ziyue had left. Could it be him? Zongheng, didn't you ask me to help you find a few beauties yesterday? I had just finished arranging them for you, but when I returned, I discovered. The cultivator hurriedly tried to explain. If a second person knows about this, just you wait. Zongheng's eyes turned cold as he snorted and hurriedly headed for the rear courtyard of the 9-star Dao Palace. Rear courtyard of the 9-star Dao Palace, Cultivation Hall. Zongheng hurriedly entered and quickly saw a round-faced cultivator sitting cross-legged at the front. His expression turned solemn as he hurriedly bowed respectfully and said, "Zongheng greets Master." This person was the palace master of the 9-star Dao Palace's Skymist Immortal City branch, Situ Jingning. He was a mid-Jindan realm cultivator. Situ Jingning slightly nodded and opened his eyes. What is it? Today, an unfamiliar cultivator with a 9-star deity medallion came to our Dao Palace. Zongheng hurriedly said with a serious expression. It's very normal for cultivators to travel the world. Is there anything strange about him? Situ Jingning raised his eyebrows and asked casually. Yes. This time, this person directly used his deity medallion status to purchase 5 Jindan-level inheritances and a large amount of resources. The total amount of spirit stones spent, even if reduced, is still more than 2 million high-grade spirit stones. His wealth is astonishing. By the way, through the discount of the deity medallion, we also discovered that his deity medallion rank is not 9 stars, but 10 stars. He's equivalent to an official disciple of the Dao Palace. Zongheng hurriedly explained. He had intended to conceal it to lessen his mistake, but this news could not be concealed at all. Thus, he could only be frank. A junior brother from another mountain range came to our Gusha mountain range? Situ Jingning could not help but be somewhat interested. This disciple does not know. Zongheng braced himself and said, "But just now, I learned that the star medallion of our 9-star Dao Palace rang." You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.